Connor. Thank you for the scoreboards. Outstanding. Like Connor McKnight, a Wisconsin Badger, and he's proud. Executive producer is Jay Zawoski. Ben Finford takes care of things in the metal shop, but he's busy today being a celebrity at Stevenson High School. It's career day there. Finchie took a day off for it.
He goes back and tells them how they can become Ben Finfers when they grow up. That's pretty cool.
And everybody runs to the next auditorium.
No, man. People would love to be Ben Finfers.
Nick Shepkowski on the board today, our director of research. Hey, he's got a big afternoon planned. He's going to go home, watch Jaws after he goes on one of his favorite free sites and spends a quality 14 minutes there.
14? Impressive.
14 minutes. That's all the lad needs. And our intern, Rusty, Lindsay, and also Rick Camp, the board operator for Kane County Cougars.
Wow. I am so pleased to have met his acquaintance, or made his acquaintance, and then he hopped on Mike. He's excitable.
He sure is.
I look forward to years of his content.
The guests today included Mike Florio of ProFootballTalk.com/NBC Sports, Steve Rosenblum here at the Score and the Tribune, Mark Shanowski from Comcast Sportsnet, and Ron Kittle, former White Sox slugger who is okay. He's not penniless. He's not Michael Douglas in the movie The Game, running around in Spain wondering if he could find a watch to exchange for airfare home. Boers Bernstein time on the Score. Yeah, did you catch a little of that?
A little bit, yeah.
I got this email. You got hacked. It looked like it was actually sent. I'm thinking he probably wouldn't choose Spain, but there were just enough misspellings in Kittle speak to believe it was real.
There's also enough plausibility knowing Kittle that something like that could happen to him.
Yes,
that's you know what I mean?
I know.
Like there are other people who'd be like, "Oh, what the hell is this?" But you can, that's what made it. There's something about the Kittleness of it.
Also,
that made it funny.
There was a picture of a bench made out of bats and balls.
Yeah, those look so comfortable, don't
bottom.
they?
They do look comfortable.
I love that guy, though.
Those are very nice.
They are.
They are nice. Here's a little I know about Damadel. This led back in the day, apparently, when he was the most powerful figure in America, or at least one of them. I did not know I did not know you popped in on Elton John. I didn't know that.
Popped in on him?
Yeah, I didn't know you saw him.
Oh, yeah, I've seen Elton John a few times. He popped in, no.
This isn't like the Stevie Nicks story, is it?
No. Okay. It's a whole different thing.
No, that's popping all the blue hairs in Vegas, right?
Yeah. When you say popped in, you mean like you walked in on him on the crapper?
Oh,
No, he went to see a
in.
concert. Went to see him play.
Decided to quit gambling for a second and popped in to see Elton John.
Went to see him at that venue they built for Celine Dion.
Yeah, I saw Elton John there. I saw that show.
The Red Piano Tour.
Yeah.
And was told after, because we had pretty good seats, and he invites the first 5 to 10 rows up on stage with him to gather around the piano for Saturday Night's All Right for Friday. So I got nobody in front of me. I'm feeling like, okay, it's Saturday Night's All Right. So I'm going to go ahead and stand up a little bit. It's a rockin' song, and the blue hairs sit down.
You were berated.
Sit down. They say, Tony Bennett's down the street. I'm at a rock show.
Did you?
So he turned around and sprayed them all with mustard.
Yeah.
Like Gallagher. That wasn't mustard.
My wife.
I think it was mustard. I hope it was mustard.
We hope.
My wife and I got in an argument over the deal. She says I was totally in the wrong, that I wasn't, in fact, at a rock show.
If it's one song and you're up and moving and it's an up song, I don't have a problem with that. If it's the whole show, like I was
then you got a problem.
Well, I saw Wilco at the Vic, whatever that was, 3 weeks ago or a month and a half ago or whatever, and there were like 4 dudes in one row standing the entire time, completely damaging the experience of the 10 to 15 rows behind them and refusing to sit down for the entire show. For a mellow band, for the most part.
For a mellow band.
For a mellow band.
But if something is up-tempo start to finish.
For one song, you have to allow that. Absolutely.
I think so, but
one thing you'll get to do soon. In a couple years, you will take Ruben to a Dan Zanes show.
I'm familiar with Dan Zanes.
You are familiar with Dan Zanes. So he's a Brooklyn-based kids performer, and his concerts, I've seen it twice at the Harris Theater. His concerts, he encourages everybody move everywhere, and
that's the whole thing.
And
right?
and if he sees empty seats or empty rows, he goes out of his way to bring everybody down, get everybody up and dancing, and then he's in the aisles, and the dancers are all around you, and it's just it all mixes. It's not like he's even sort of on the stage. Everybody's everywhere.
Have you seen Justin Roberts, Chicago's own kids music? A lot of friends of mine in that band. Very
you know what?
good.
Brooks Boyer might want to employ that philosophy, bringing everybody up a little bit closer this year over on the south side.
Come on down. You said 85 wins for the Sox.
I blurted it out.
Smoking socks
you're
cracked.
gonna- I
together.
haven't
You're going to stick to it. I'll give you if you don't like it,
well,
you can back off.
I haven't really sat down and crunched everything and really thought about it like I will before first hit and run, which isn't for a couple of weeks actually, but I blurted out 85 wins. I still think third place.
That's a hell of a year, though.
I think Detroit is going to win 94, 95 games. Then Cleveland could easily win 90, 91 games, maybe 88, 89.
You like Cleveland?
I do like Cleveland. I do like Cleveland in that division.
The resurgent Grady Sizemore being key to their plans.
He's no longer naked, but still bad.
5 very serviceable pitchers. With their additions.
Don't the White Sox have that?
Yes, they do. And I think there will be the phrase that people have come to love, a little bit of regression to the mean offensively for some of the guys who sucked last year.
Well, PECOTA's out, and it just came out today. We're efforting Colin Wires from Baseball Prospectus at some point in the next couple days. But the algorithms have crunched all the numbers dispassionately, and they've got Adam Dunn with 30 home runs.
There you have it.
We got him now.
30 home runs for Adam Dunn.
And an 810 OPS.
That's a very acceptable OPS. Wow.
Damn straight. I will tell you this. The other thing PECOTA wants you to do, Terry?
Yeah.
Close Beckham camp.
Not believing.
Well, I still didn't get the order. Food order didn't come in yet. It's not too late.
Okay,
Who will make the rope bracelets at Beckham camp? Well, here's the other thing. I think Chris Sale is going to have a great year as a starter. I think Sale will have as good a year as Burley had last year. I believe in Chris Sale as a starter. He'll mix in that change up, and he's born to be a starter, not a closer.
You like John Danks?
Yeah, I think Danks will have as good a year with some of the peripheral numbers and probably better with the wins and losses.
And Umber goes back to being Umber like we saw the second half of last year, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure.
You're always willing to throw out a Phil Umber. Couldn't remember him the other day.
I couldn't. For the life of me, I couldn't remember him. He's so forgettable.
Just think what you been got going on.
That's right. That's the guy. He's the what you been got going on recipient.
And Chief Rosner.
Whoa. Do you have does wins and losses? The PECOTA have team wins and losses?
I didn't see that yet. I just saw the Excel spreadsheet that is, and we're trying to. I've got Ed Griesman trying to reorganize the data because I'm not good with Excel. But it was arranged by Baseball Prospectus ID number, so it wasn't alphabetical or by team. It was just sort of this, to me, random grouping of players and numbers I don't really entirely understand.
Okay.
So I was sticking with the things that I know, but it's...
My guy can put it together for you.
I hope
Ed
so.
Ed
Griesman. He says he's got a friend who's an accountant who's going to help us out.
Get it done.
Whatever
I can't afford to blow my mind for this.
I don't care where they're coming from. I think Matt Spiegel might be the only one. He could be out there by himself, leading the way by many lengths. So we'll have the White Sox at 85 wins.
Well, I think you're right.
It
It could be. It could be.
I think you'll be alone on that. I mean, just the guys who do the computer thing and spit them out and hear the numbers.
I know, Terry,
But
but
look real smart if they get there, Speaks.
It'll be a great year.
Well, part of it also is it's baseball. It doesn't work the way you think it's going to.
Agreed.
It just doesn't. And I'm not saying 90-95 wins. That'd be a complete shock. But all the talk about rebuilding, and remember, they didn't really do that much in terms of changing a roster that underwhelmed. They didn't really do that much.
I just don't know where the non-outs come from. If you look at the all-important on-base percentage, and that last 6 weeks of Brent Morel...
Pierre's gone.
Yeah, so your one out machine is gone.
That helps.
But you still have so many guys that don't walk enough.
Yeah.
Viciedo doesn't walk.
What if he hits?
Well, that's fine.
I mean, that's
really
fine,
but he'll have to slug. I mean, he'll have to slug to make up for that.
That'd be fun if
Jeff Manto doesn't value the walk, though, right? Wasn't that part of his?
Discuss.
Yeah, no.
think that's right,
Ask Terry
That's right,
if you want.
Him and
He's
Dusty.
disqualified.
Yeah, he's cut
Not
out.
allowed.
He's not allowed to bring that up.
I thought that was part of his conversation with Mully and Hanley. It's the walk.
Yeah, whatever. We'd rather make it out.
What do you want to do that for?
Dan doesn't remember. He blocked it out.
He has no
Not
idea.
allowed to talk about it.
What are you guys doing today?
I don't know.
You gonna find your hockey gay
Any
today?
ideas? No, I think
it's no time to find him now.
No, the hockey gay's dead. My son is my new hockey
And
gay.
it's good. Wow. Your son has to be in bed by puck drop on these Western trip games. That's a good thing for him that he's not watching this.
Slammed down the paper this morning when he saw that.
Did he really?
Yeah,
Nice.
because I always set it right next to where he gets his little pancakes together. I hear the microwave beeping, and I look at it. He picks it up. of bleary-eyed. He just goes, ugh, slam, right down in front of him.
And this, you know what? 5-2, not indicative of how one-sided it was either. It was ugly. I don't know. Speegs and I will be their slump busters next week in New York.
We will. They'll probably lose every game until we get there. They're going to win
one of these games.
They got San Jose, Phoenix, and then Nashville before the game against the Rangers. If they don't scratch in those next three, that we'll be rooting for them to try to avoid a 10-game winless streak.
They'll beat either San Jose or Phoenix just because.
Just because?
Just because.
Oh, you got to tip your hat to Antti Niemi. Boy, he was terrific.
We were joking about what the circumstances will be when we get to New York to see them at at Madison Square Garden. Coach Scotty Bowman leads the Blackhawks out there.
Patrick Kane's first multi-goal game in a Rangers uniform.
Hey, let me ask you, is it okay, by the way, and every time you do it, there's people that were wearing your ass out. Is it okay to be a little disappointed in Patrick Kane? Is that okay?
Not last
he
night.
Played well last night.
Yeah, but I mean, just in general, Terry, it is okay. He should have way more points than he has, and that's not on him. That he should have more goals than he has, but if he were skating with finishers, if Taves were a better finisher, if Stahlberg would do a better job he could be a 60 assist, 70 assist guy every year. He's that special as a passer. He has got terrific hands.
His hands and eyes.
He was doing it again last night, and nobody's burying him.
And Marian Hossa's got to be more important.
Yes, he does. No question about it. It's all the stars. It's Taves. It's Hossa. It's Keith. It's guys who 2 years ago you thought, man, for years to come. Look at this. Look how young.
Stanley Cups. Stanley Cups, not just one.
Suddenly, the head coach is morphing into. He's Joel Ditka. He's a one-year wonder with a big mustache.
Did you get any suggestions for your Shanowski song?
Mark Shanowski was the most common one. Yeah. So we'll probably go with the knack. That's right there for you.
I don't know.
Also, Shock the Monkey. Mark Shanowski. Exactly. It's not bad.
Because there is no excuse for Derek Rose playing tonight.
None.
He's not going to play.
He said he's going to play.
He doesn't make the rules, though, does he?
No, he does.
No,
he does.
No.
He's
going to get trumped on this one.
He better
New Orleans.
No, I just tell him like the start time is different or something. Or
they moved the game. We're at the Superdome.
Arenas. It's like that dream you have, but I just make sure he's not playing.
All right, so
hide his shoes.
Me and Shanowski would both do this if it's conceivable. If Memphis wants to give you O.J. Mayo for Omer Ashik, and you can sign Joel Prisbilla to replace Omer Ashik's bigness and presence, I do it in a heartbeat.
Does Prisbilla want to play, though?
He's debating it.
He's debating whether he wants to play at all. Not which team, but whether he wants to play
at all. So do you want to invest in a guy like that?
I'm
not sure if he wants to play.
For a year. I don't want to get caught overvaluing Omer.
He gets there and he decides he doesn't want to. He's got a demanding coach. I don't want to count expectations.
I don't want to count I know you do. I don't want to count the Omer before they hatch.
You know, the Hawks need like the bull schedule.
He did actually hatch from a giant egg. Too.
I know.
It's coincidental you bring that up.
The Lady Gaga egg.
You're right.
Same one.
The Hawks could use a punching bag. Thing is that they're hard to find in the NHL.
I know.
You don't have to look
easy
too far.
to find in the NBA, though.
Yeah. Where's the New Jersey Nets and Bowers? Can we get a night with those guys?
Oh, man. And this isn't any better.
B. Umslayer on the back of the jersey.
Bruce Umslayer.
Bruce. Yeah. See, I went with Bob or Bill. Brandon. I think I had a Brandon in there. With an I-N.
All right. Fellas, have a fun ride today. Boers and Bernstein are here. Spiegel and I are back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Patrick Kane's got the line, put it to Taves. He was well covered, and 2-on-1 the other way they come. O'Reilly again walks inside an open net. Nice pass. Ryan O'Reilly and Mueller finished it. And Colorado has the evener upper. Now Keith with a problem. Hayduke steals 3-on-2. They are again. Open net. And David Jones makes it 2-1. That's 2 goals in 35 seconds for the Avs. Pass broken up. Landeskog on the counterattack to Stasny. Back to Landeskog shooting. He scores! Where was the Hawks defensive positioning there? It seemed to be a 2-on-2, and Landeskog was wide open. It's 3-2 now. Ada goes the other way. Stasny able to shield it nicely. Flipped it. Hep Jones has one man to beat O'Donnell. David Jones scores! 4-2. Net empty to our left. Quincy rolled it forward. It's going to go in. Kyle Quincy, I don't think, was trying to score. He wanted to dump it in and hit a Hawks player, went into the goal. 5-2.
The conference, you look at our division, you look at where we're at. We give up a lot of ground here recently, and we still got some big games coming up and some tough games. So it's, we got to find a way to win a game now.
That's Coach Q. Not exactly a great night. Another rough one, as they used to say back at home. Another rough one for the Blackhawks. Lose to the Lanch. Although, the Lanch almost always beats them there, don't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they have a problem winning in Colorado. I think they do. And they had a very pleasant good afternoon, taking to make you several promises for the next 4.5 hours or thereabouts. We're going to do the best we can to keep you informed and entertained. Perhaps have a laugh or two along the way. A lot of persistent rapping at someone's back door. Probably. We'll see. And this is radio's best combination of divisive, outrageous, appalling, objectionable, offensive, and occasionally inhospitable. I'm Terry Moore.
I'm Dan Bernstein. Second half at 3:30. Hub Arkush takes your calls one more time on the Bears and the NFL at 5 o'clock as we continue to try to figure out what the Bears are doing, because they're just weird, and they keep doing things that seem to be simple, but they just bears them up so much that they take some assistant coach and they create a position, and then they don't fill the position, and then they deny that they were going to fill the position.
Well, I can tell you what happened there.
I'd like to know.
Yeah, I can tell you what happened.
I have a theory, actually.
Okay, well, we'll see if your theory is right, because I have a word on what happened there.
I'm writing about it as we speak, and I will give you what my theory is, and we'll see how it matches up with what
Just don't give me John theory, okay?
No, they gave us John theory. And
I don't want it.
And it was bad.
Thanks for calling.
312-644-6767 is our number at WSCR The Score. Surprises along the way. You can email us at boersandbernstein at 670thescore.com. That's where you go to listen to us live. And streaming at 670thescore.com. Feedback Zone brought to you by Xfinity. Finds your emails and your texting at 67011.
Minnesota beats Oakland 4-3. Take that, Bernsey. We get a bet.
I think I won it, by the way.
Those White Sox roots of yours run very, very deep. They run right to the deepest part of Hawk's soul.
Use your mobile device to log on to Score mobile thing, whatever.
Whatever that is.
And follow on Twitter. You can follow me at Dan_Bernstein. The show's Twitter page at Boers_Bernstein. And we have BoersandBernstein.com. Lots of fun stuff there. It's brought to you by Bob Rohrman's Schaumburg Ford, online at RohrmanFord.com. Drive a new Ford Fusion over 30 MPG Highway for just $239 a month. Our producers are Matt Abaticola.
In 2005, when we won the World Series, they had 11 billion bounces that went the right way, calls that they got that won them games.
Retard. I love Matt Abaticola, just not as much as other members of our production staff do.
Jason Goff.
I'm only allowed to let in 5% black people. That means for 25 people here, I get to let in 1.25 black people. So I got to hope it's a black midget in the crowd.
He is the most dangerous producer in the world.
And our intern is a man who's been hard at work trying to figure out Excel for me, which I don't know how to use. Ed Griesman.
I'll tell you something. That's my
He
guy.
got 4 strikes last time up there and kept that rally going. Whereas if he had been called out on that strike, inning would have been over.
Won't be long now, will it?
No, we'll get back to bitching about umps.
There'll be a lot of nights, by the way, when I think Hawk will barely be breathing, let alone speaking.
Yeah, you'd think that the umpire conspiracy was bad last year. Oh, wait, now you have no idea how bad the umpires have made the White Sox. Damn,
well,
umpires.
you know how miserable it gets when they're bad, when they're losing.
Yeah.
It's just
he just wants to go home.
He wants to go home, and I don't see. I'm working on it though. I got time to digest it all. When I see all the numbers, when I see what everybody else thinks, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong about the White Sox. But I mean, it's very hard to have a absolute clear mind about it and say to yourself, the White Sox are going to be good. That's a very difficult thing to do. I can make the case to other teams in baseball that may not be, quite all I think there, but I think they're going to be decent, where the White Sox...
All right, you want my theory as to why all of a sudden...
I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
The case of the disappearing
and we have
coach,
not talked about this. Right. I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
There's a couple scenarios. One scenario is they didn't feel that Jeremy Bates was worthy of the position. The other scenario is that Phil Emery maybe came in there and said, nah, something we probably don't want to do, talked with Lovey about it. But what I believe happened is maybe Mike Tice realized he's kind of looking like an idiot here.
That's exactly what happened.
And then Mike Tice says, hey, come on now. Either make me coordinator or not.
That's exactly
Don't give me some sort of assistant because I'm supposed to be some kind of passing game idiot. And he successfully lobbied to actually have the title and the job.
That's what he did.
Okay.
That's what he did. Because there was a brief to-do after the passing thing coordinator came out, and it was like he felt like a fool.
Yep, that's
he felt like an idiot. And see, the thing is, unlike other guys who've been through the building or some, various people over the years, they like him. Mm-hmm. Everybody likes Mike Tice.
Good.
So, he felt like a complete boob and made his feelings known.
I'm glad I haven't wasted the 250 words that I've already written.
No,
I was worried.
That's exactly what happened. My guy said that he felt like a complete idiot because they're going like, you don't think I can know how to pass the ball? Running around. Yeah. I mean, it was like, and they.
Right. This was the guy who was there with Dante Culpepper and Randy Moss, and I think they did a little bit of passing.
Yeah, I think that was his point. That you're making me look like an idiot. Look, I've got to call the plays. And yes, we want to run the ball better. We want a better offense. I'll do all that stuff, but why are you doing that? It makes it look like I can't call a play that involves a pass unless I have somebody to help me.
I'm so pleased that I can actually go with this.
I mean, and he's not even sure where this passing game coordinator thing came from because they really don't want to do anything to make Tice feel foolish. They really don't.
No, empower the guy. Let him go to work.
Yeah, I mean, you empower him and then you make him look like an idiot. Oh, and by the way, he's going to need help. What? What? And I mean, we're so dumb. We're sort of accepting of it because it's the Bears. Look, I know he hasn't called a ton of plays, but his point was very simple. I guess he was rather upset by it. What are you doing? You don't think I can call a pass play? You don't think we're going to throw? You don't think I've taken some stuff? I know how to run an offense. So it was like, yeah, Mike, come to think of it, you're right.
Right. And all it does is start the season with him looking like he has less power.
Yes.
And players will take him less seriously. Like, why should I listen to you because you're not in charge of passing?
Right. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I didn't think about it in those terms. And, how
we talked about it in those terms.
Yeah, how he would look at it, though. And I know in those terms we talked about it because it sounded silly. But, when you think about the guy in the middle of it, how could he feel any other way but an idiot when they do that?
Right.
How can you feel anything?
So glad I don't have to delete all this.
No, you don't have to delete it. You're okay. Right on top of it.
Good.
Like I said, it was a to-do.
Yep.
And that idea died a long time ago. They just didn't say it. They waited to just name a quarterbacks coach. The idea died when Tice was upset. It's like, what? What are you doing? I mean, and I don't blame him. Mm-hmm. You're either running or you're not running. You're the damn offensive coordinator. Who the hell in the NFL has an offensive coordinator as a passing coordinator? Who has that? What are you talking about? I think that was his take on it. And the Bears, and Emery apparently agreed. Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. We're not going to do that. That's not what's going to be hired. And it was Lovey's hire. Mm-hmm. But even I don't know if they went to Levy and said we can't do that or whatever. But it changed right after it became public. And
but they interviewed. We know they interviewed Greg Olson for the passing coordinator job. They did not say they were interviewing him for the quarterbacks coach job. So typically the Bears handled it poorly.
Right.
Is they just sort of let it continue under the wrong name.
Well, they wanted you to make you think they never said it.
Scoreboard update.
And at 1:30 and from the Chicago Wolves Update Studio, I'm Matt Rodewald. Wolves Flex Packs are 10 undated tickets for the price of 7. Visit ChicagoWolves.com. The Blackhawks continue to slide down the standings, 6 in a row now. The longest losing skid for the Hawks since the 2007-2008 season. They're on the ice in Denver right now, getting a practice in before heading west to San Jose, where they'll take on the Sharks on Friday night. The Bulls in New Orleans this evening. The Bulls swept the season series last year and have won 6 straight against the Hornets. Derrick Rose and his back spasms. He says he's a game-time decision, but he also thinks that he's just going to play tonight. And the Bulls, Heat, or sit on the couch. That's the choice for Joel Prisbilla. He will decide one of those options soon. Conference Shuffle, Memphis moves to the Big East in 2013. That makes 9 Conference USA schools picked up by the league in the last decade. Because of that, Conference USA now looking at the merger possibility with the Mountain West, and that would create a 16-team football conference by 2013. College hoops tonight, Big Ten. Penn State travels to number 11 Michigan State. 22nd ranked Michigan is at Nebraska. Also, Notre Dame heads to West Virginia. Irish looking to make it 5 straight. 4 games in state tonight. NIU entertaining Miami of Ohio. Bradley hosts Indiana State. SIU battles Missouri State, while Illinois State takes on Drake. Ricky Williams told a Miami radio station that he texted Bill Parcells to express how much he was looking forward to coming back next season. Parcells responded, don't chase this thing too long. So he stopped and retired this week. Just like that. The Scoreboard Update is brought to you by American Family Insurance. And don't forget to stop by the Toyota display at the Auto Show, where the Score will be broadcasting live every day from the Sports Corner starting on Friday. For more information, go to 670thescore.com. Brought to you by Toyota, moving forward. I'm Matt Rodewald, and you're listening to The Score, celebrating 20 years as the original and number 1 Chicago sports station. This is Chicago Sports Radio, 670 The Score, and 670thescore.com, Chicago Sports Station.
This hour brought to you by State Farm Insurance. Boers Bernstein talking a little bit about the Bears, because there's, what actually happened. If you caught it, really wasn't what they said they were going to do, and you hit it. That is the reason that you're making the guy you gave a very important job to look like a boob, a rube, a guy who's never seen a game, a guy who only knows how to run the ball. And it was like he was upset by it. Mm-hmm. He's upset by it.
And he successfully said, come on, either give me the job or don't.
Yeah, come on.
I knew it.
Kidding me?
Yep.
You kidding me with this stuff?
That's why, remember we talked to Zach, and that's why Zach said, when we said, well, wait a sec, what happened to the passing coordinator? And Zach said Mike Tice will call the plays with input from his positional coaches. And that sounds exactly like a traditional offensive coordinator. That's what all offensive coordinators do.
That's what they do, yeah. Yeah, in terms of being ham-handed again, yes, congratulations. Mm-hmm. Bears, nicely done. Nicely done. You make a guy who did a nice job for you and tries very hard. Like I say, they like him. Make him look like an idiot. By the way, he's the offensive coordinator, but we're going to have a passing coordinator.
Because he's kind of stupid.
Right. That's it. Without saying kind of stupid, that's the way he felt.
So we're going to be joined at 3 o'clock by Colin Wires of Baseball Prospectus. He is the guy in charge of the PECOTA algorithm. And don't get mad at it, because it's not a person. It's not him. This isn't opinion. It is simply using a very, very complicated statistical formula of both past performance and comparable performance of similar players throughout history to measure for the percentage chance of attrition, of regression to the mean, of improvement back to the mean, all of that stuff. But it's just really not encouraging for the White Sox.
For what? It can't be encouraging for the Cubs.
No, it's not. But half the Cubs I've never even heard of. But the only thing it's encouraging is the stuff on Adam Dunn. They've got him for 30 home runs. It has him for 30 homers.
I look forward to hearing some just sitting there listening, because I'm looking forward to baseball. I have nothing, you have basketball, and I don't want to be settled much until May, and we want to talk some basketball at the top of the hour, just some stuff too.
Definitely.
But I'm just sort of looking forward to baseball, and when I look forward to baseball, I don't just center it right here, because if you did that, you just want to kill yourself. So you have to look around and enjoy the game elsewhere, if that makes sense to you.
Well, that's what the White Sox say. Appreciate the game, right?
I appreciate the game, just not necessarily yours.
I do.
I'm not. I mean, it'd be fine if they did. It'd be wonderful. They surprised people and contended right there with the mighty Tigers, right to the end.
It would be a surprise, however. That's the problem.
And plus, here's the other thing about this team. And it seems to me like it happened. Maybe it doesn't. I don't have any numbers in front of me. But these awful starts they get to. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, and somehow you just, even if you have this little streak in there where it looks good and you get back in it, I mean, you've got people done with you by mid-May. They're tired of you. You've been awful. Because they said, how many spring trainings have they said, here's what the deal is. We're going to make sure when we leave here, we're going to get out to a better start.
Yeah, I'd love to have a reason to remain interested, if nothing else.
Well, it's nice for your summer evenings, your leisurely summer evenings, to kick back and listen to Huck bitch about the umpires. There's nothing wrong with that.
Come here, son. Let's go sit on the porch and turn on the radio and listen to. Well, actually, the radio's not as bad, but we can sit in front of the television and watch Ken Harrelson bitch about umpiring for the next 6 months.
That hit. I mean, it's going to be, especially with this team, it's going to be, wait a minute.
All
no,
right.
the Farmio isn't too bad about it. Once in a while, he'll get a red ass.
He's better about it, though.
He'll get a red ass on you.
Unfortunately, the giant blinking computer has spat out a sheet of paper that has Gordon Beckham with a 317 on base average.
Oh, I'm going to leave.
And a slugging percentage of 389.
Oh. Well,
it has him at a
good thing I didn't order the s'mores.
A 253 batting average.
Wow.
Yeah.
317?
No, 250. Yeah, 317 on base, 253 batting average, 12 homers, though. So there you go. You got
12 homers.
You got
that
for you.
He's just, here's the only hope I have, and it's, maybe we'll wait till after the break. But I don't, it's only a hope based on probably a really idiotic pretense. But
that's quite the preface. But, in baseball, sometimes idiotic pretense works.
That's what it is, too.
Yep.
Because baseball is very difficult to figure out. It's tough.
Yes.
I mean, you can pick a few winners right now, but the other scramble that goes on is really what it's all about. And is Uncle Meathead, has he figured out how to add the other wild card team yet?
No, they haven't.
He hasn't, right?
No, they've been stymied in their efforts.
Meathead, he's an idiot. He needs a passing coordinator.
Well, he'll be passing soon.
Well, that's
right. Is that what you mean?
Fine too. Well, you know what? We want to do this. I can't figure out. We'll get back to you. Okay, bud. We'll wait. Oh, we can't do. Yeah. Just want to add two teams in one game, right?
Yeah. So what's your idiotic pretense here?
Well, I just the idea of Beckham being this bad forever is foreign to me. I don't think there's been a little bit of good, hasn't been enough of it. And I just look at some of these guys and I'm saying, what stops him? What really stops this guy from being the player that everybody thought he was going to be? What is it? I mean, it's not necessarily, you look at him and say, well, he's not impressive body-wise, but the thing is, some of the best second basemen in the game aren't guys that impress you physically. There's no physical specimens out there. There's some of the little guys. That the little guys.
Yeah, but Beckham physically is fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
He
not
looks
like
the part.
people get him and say, you know what, sometimes I think he knocked a bat out of his hand and I just don't know what the hell he's doing, and he's over-swinging and he gets behind an account and it's just awful. It's 0-2 on him every at-bat. If you notice, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I'm trying to find what I think is actually stopping him. Because it just,
Maybe it's just not being good enough at hitting. There have been a lot of guys who just weren't good enough at hitting. And eventually, the major league pitching, it's just their ceiling. And that's it.
If I were him, I would take a close look at the guys about like him. And I mean, man, oh man, that whole last year, I just like to forget it all. But I just don't think, I really don't, and this is it, by the way. This is the last year you'll ever hear this from me. Because if it's not this year, done. He's finished. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's finished. And the White Sox will also agree with that. They will know that if you want him, here he is, or whatever paper he's got left is up, he's gone. I mean, I think they will reach that same. Because if it's 317, say that's close to what it is, his OBP, that's it.
Yeah, you can't be a second baseman.
You're done.
With a
Oh,
starting
no,
second baseman with
317?
317 on base percentage.
Hell no.
No. We're Boers and Bernstein. We'll be talking with Colin Wires of Baseball Prospectus. Big day for them when their projections come out. The computer beeps and whizzes and smokes, and then the pieces of paper come out, and they look at them and they go, well, it's just probability, so who knows?
That's okay.
And then
We'll
Chicago
talk to them
fans
later.
cry. But we'll talk to him anyway. You got the score.
We actually, aside from straightening some things out on the Bears and what they did yesterday in their own very special way, say one thing and do another because they screwed up and making their offensive coordinator feel like a fool. But anyway, that's all right. It's all fine now. Jeremy Bates is in place today. We're talking a little baseball. And my guy Beckham, look, here's why I'm projecting this. This is why I'm talking about when I look at the guys I really like that are second basemen. First of all, none of them are any bigger than he is. All of them are more aggressive than he is. All of them. The guys that are really good look to me, and they somehow have learned the art. They've learned the art of not being behind 0-2 on every at-bat. If there's something right away, they're on it. They're on top of it. Where Gordon seems to me to be. It's just ever since he got over the initial rush of kind of being here, where he was pretty good for a while. He just seems, he talks aggressive, but he seems tentative to me. He doesn't seem like he believes it. Like he believes that he's going to get a hit. I mean, I just watch him, and then I watched all those doubles to right center, and I'm thinking, yeah. I mean, you could do that. You can absolutely do that if they're going to pitch out there. And I just watch these guys and watch them, and I'm thinking all of them are like this nature to them. This Kinsler, just this nature he has about it. And I'm not saying Beckham is going to hit 30 home runs.
Isn't that the definition of being good or not?
Well, yeah, I just think that part of it is something, and maybe he's no good. Look, I hold that out completely for you. I hold that out there.
I want him to be good.
Yes, I do too. But it just seems to me like when he has an at bat, you say, "Oh, he was too aggressive that at bat." Maybe he was, but he just doesn't look it.
Right.
He's just so damn. He's just that one tick off all of it. It's just like,
Yep, I know what you mean. It's difficult to describe exactly, but there are some guys who can have that timing in AAA, and that's the difference between major league pitching and non-major league pitching. There are history's littered with guys like that.
I know
it's not uncommon.
But not guys who were really,
Yes, I mean, first round picks.
Well, he was here early though. You know what I mean? When you're early, generally, like some of those guys are still languishing down there. Some of those first round picks, and some of them are gone. Can't find them. I mean, he was here right away, which for this franchise was kind of ooh, because
he's been fine defensively.
Yeah.
He doesn't take it out in the field with him.
No, he does not.
As they say.
No, he does not. I just look at him, I watch him, and I know what, it just seems for some reason like that position produces guys like this. I don't know why that is. Because there's certainly more important positions are all over the place than there are second base. But there's just something about their nature and the way they are and how they approach it. They're just down and dirty all the time. And he doesn't seem to have that. And I'm trying to figure out, can he get that? If he grows into a little bit of getting off to a good start and actually fulfilling what he feels he should be fulfilling, like he did early. Like when he got here, he was fine.
Well, if you follow him on Twitter, he's endlessly upbeat.
Right. I know he is.
He always seems confident, and you just wonder, he's got this sort of endless well of confidence, and I guess he's had to. He's gone through some difficult times lately after a rip-roaring start.
Yeah.
And then you give other teams, you give scouts the chance to find the holes in his swing, to use his head against him a little bit.
Yeah, that's what they do.
That's what they do. That's their job. Their job is to destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been succeeding, unfortunately. And this is, like you say, some people may have said the "this is it" time has come and gone. I believe there are some scouts that believe that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like
I know there are.
It looks like the PECOTA algorithm seems to believe that too.
Yeah, they agree with that. Yeah,
because that's not a real promising group of statistics. That's like you're not a major leaguer anymore statistics.
Well,
but these are just possibilities.
See, last year was a key year, and it really was a big pile of crap. And that's exactly the year when you thought if anything was going to start to come together a little bit, it would be last year. Like I say, I understand, by the way, completely. If many others have given up hope, I absolutely understand that for him. I mean, he has had more than ample chances. I don't know how many major league at bats he has, but enough. But I'm going to give him this one more year. I'm not going to open camp, but I think this one more year, and I don't know why I think I need one more year.
That's
Maybe
what
because
I mean.
I'm losing the argument, right?
You're giving yourself one more year.
Yes, I am. I'm giving myself one more year. That's what I'm doing. Hey, Sil, you want one more year? Yeah,
I'll take it. Thank you.
One more year. Give me one more chance to win.
That's Terry Boers. I'm Dan Bernstein. 312-644-6767. You had some basketball stuff I know you wanted to get to also amid some of the baseball talk. I like the sound of the idea. I like the theoretically, I love baseball talk.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm actually going to love baseball talk, though. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's sort of like my Beckham argument.
That was sort of like when we realized that talking about interviewing Yanni was better than actually interviewing Yanni.
Yeah, it actually was better thinking about it than actually doing it. Yeah, I waited. I was eager to have him, and here comes Yanni.
Here's Yanni.
It's just
You've got the score.
I mean, he's a nice guy and everything, but my God. Right. Beckham, I love to back guys who probably never do anything, but I'm still backing him. One more season for me, and then I'm done. I'm walking away. I'm leaving our living arrangement. I'm walking away from him. Leave me alone. Because I don't think, really, the history of baseball is much littered with guys who have played that far into their career and have had all this thing, and then all of a sudden go somewhere. Because clearly there won't be any point. If he does what he does last year or has the 317 as the professor suggests, there's no point in him remaining a White Sox.
Jock Itch Mitch is out today. What's up,
Gentlemen,
Mitch?
Good morning. Afternoon, excuse me.
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock already.
Speaking about now they were off football, I'm in mourning, but we're off football, back into baseball. Mr. Beckham will never hit, and the reason is, as we all know, is the hitch that he has. He has a hitch like Tebow does in football. There's only 2 guys in baseball I can think of that had a hitch that were successful, and that was Gary Sheffield and Andre Dawson. Those are the only 2 that have that kind of hitch, and so as long as he has that, and he can't get quick to the ball. I mean, I would love to pitch against him. I pitch him inside. He can't get to even the outside pitches either with that hitch. So he can hit an off-speed ball. You can make a mistake and hit an off-speed ball, but that hitch is just detriment to him ever advancing. What do you think?
And just so people understand, when we say hitch, traditionally a hitch is described as a dropping of the hands before bringing them back to the load position.
Right. And he has never improved on that in all these years.
Well, he tried. They tried to coach it out of him, remember? And that's what because he had the hitch when he first started. Then, after one time around the league, they exploited it. So they tried to coach it out of him. They figured that was part of the problem. And then when he struggled so mightily, he said, that's it. I have to go back to my comfortable swing. This is what I am. I have to go back to my college swing. So that's why once you make the initial adjustment and that doesn't work, and then then your only adjustment to the adjustment is to go back to what you did, that tells me that you're out of ideas.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Look, thanks to the calls always, Mitch. Good to hear from you. Look, I know I'm battling. Look, how many losers do you think I backed? For the love of God, it's not like this is odd. Mm-hmm. I backed a ton of them. So
all right,
one more year.
Stick with it. By the way, Alex Rios.
Yep.
They have with a batting average of 266. Also an on-base of 317, but a slugging average of 416. So that's, a 733 OPS. Not good.
That's not good either.
15 home runs. It's not horrendous,
no,
but he needs to be an 800 OPS guy, too.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's it for baseball. We're going to talk some basketball.
See, this is the problem. This is when I look at the White Sox, and I look at these, the Alexei Ramirez, you look at the numbers, you'd see him projected at 18 home runs and 79 RBIs, at 274 average. You think, hot damn, for a shortstop, that's great. But again, a 318 on-base average.
That's where he's been, yeah.
And you can't have that many guys making that many outs.
No.
That's all I'm talking about.
Well, Mr. Out is gone, though.
Yes, Mr. Out with no power is gone. Correct.
Mr. Out, no power.
That's true. But then,
but you know what? You know he's going to make the Phillies.
Check this out. Brent Morrell.
I know.
301 projected on base average.
That's not bad if you're
dead. Right.
Yeah. I see. I don't know what to make of him. I really do. I struggle with that. I haven't been on that train, but. Nor do I think am I getting him, but that'll probably be the one that'll hit.
All right, more coming your way on The Score.
This is Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Celebrating 20 years as Chicago's original and #1 sports station. WSCR and HD Chicago. Scoreboard update.
2 o'clock, and from the Chicago Wolves update studio, I'm Matt Rodewald. Been to a Wolves game yet? The Wolves are home 6 more times in February. Just visit ChicagoWolves.com. From first place in the Western Conference to on the road to start the playoffs, the Blackhawks have fallen all the way to the 6th position in the West, and with 65 points, they're still 7 points back of the Red Wings, and they would start the playoffs without any home ice advantage. That nightmare road trip continues Friday in San Jose. The Blackhawks are actually still in Denver at the moment, getting one more practice in before heading to Northern California. One more hockey note, by the way. University of Michigan has given the okay for the NHL to use the Big House for next year's Winter Classic between the Maple Leafs and the Red Wings. Bulls are in New Orleans tonight. The Hornets are just not very good. Still, Derrick Rose is fighting the urge to sit this one out. Says he's going to play tonight, even though he's a game-time decision with back spasms, and that toe is still bothering him as well. Another year goes by in which the United Center does not host an All-Star game. NHL will go to Columbus next year. That was announced a couple of weeks ago. And the NBA announced today that their game will go back to Houston in 2013. Was just there in 2006. College hoops, Penn State travels to number 11 Michigan State tonight, while number 22 Michigan is at Nebraska. Also, Notre Dame heads to West Virginia. Irish looking to make it 5 straight. Other top 25 games tonight. Good slate. 12th-ranked Georgetown is at number 2 Syracuse, number 7 Kansas, and number 6 Baylor. A rematch in Waco. And Duke and North Carolina, the number 10 Blue Devils, and number 5 Tar Heels tangling in Chapel Hill. Jeremy Bates is new Bears quarterbacks coach, no doubt. But Mike Florio reports that Jim Zorn was asked to interview for the job. Chiefs said no to the interview, though. Bears saying no to the Bears, talking with the former Redskins head coach. This scoreboard update is brought to you by Toyota.net, St. Charles Toyota.net. Qualified buyers get 0% APR financing on 9 new Toyota models, exceeding expectations at St. Charles Toyota.net. And log on to 670thescore.com's events page to find out where the DiGiorno Score truck will be next. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. Your Menard 670 weather forecast, mostly sunny skies today, highs in the mid-30s. Clear skies tonight with an overnight low of just 21. I'm Matt Rodewald, and you're listening to The Score, celebrating 20 years as the original and number 1 Chicago sports station. This is Chicago Sports Radio, 670 The Score and 670thescore.com, Chicago Sports Station.
This hour brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. No more, do more.
Boers and Bernstein.
Who said?
Chicago Sports Radio 670. The Score.
This hour, Boers and Bernstein, brought to you by Northwestern Basketball. Chicago's Big Ten team, the Cats, host Iowa Thursday night at 8. That's tomorrow night. Get there. Visit nusports.com or call 888-GO-PURPLE for tickets today.
Now, did you say that Phil Emery had some involvement in the normalization of the offensive coordinator position?
He apparently pointed it out, yeah, because Mike Tice, word got to Emery that Tice was unhappy.
Yeah, good for Mike Tice. And you know what? Good for the Bears. I think this is... I'm going to make fun of them completely.
Of course you are.
For being... For Bearsing this in a way that only they could Bears it like this.
Ursa Bears.
Yeah, just something so simple as hiring a coordinator. Then you got to kind of screw it up and make him look stupid before... But good for them for at least realizing they were Bearsing something before it got entirely Bears.
I mean, seriously, when did you ever hear anybody who has offensive coordinator name hire somebody the passing coordinator?
Like immediately upon hiring him, you say he's incapable of handling the most important aspect of offense.
Yes,
that's all. It's like here's our offensive coordinator, except for the whole passing thing.
Yeah,
see, that's like hiring. It's like hiring a special teams coordinator, then hiring somebody who handles kicking, punting, and returns. No,
it's just the dumbest ass thing. I mean, he was, I guess as time went on, he got more and more like mad about it.
Because if you wake up, like, what are you doing? Yeah. And every day you pick up the paper and see that the team is trying to hire somebody to handle the most important aspect of what's supposed to be my job.
Yeah, so whatever said in the paper
Ron Zook?
About interviewing for somebody for Pat, that wasn't true. That may have been true in their minds, but the Bears had already decided that wasn't what it was going to be.
I think
that makes sense.
I think it may have become less true over time. I don't know that there was one moment.
Right, there was less true over time.
Yeah,
sure.
that over time they just sort of realized, all right, we're hiring a quarterbacks coach.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
That's what you're hiring.
Northside, Joel, you're on the score. Joel.
Oh, hey, Dan. How's it going?
Good.
Hey, I just want to know, why are you taking so much credence into the numbers for the algorithms? It's like, these aren't...
They're probabilities. I mentioned that 4 or 5 times, that the PECOTA projections are used to find a range of probability. It does not say that they believe these are going to be the actual numbers.
Right, exactly. Do we know how accurate these algorithms actually are?
Yeah, and they measure themselves against other predictive algorithms, such as Bill James and Marcel and some others. And the answer is it gives you a decent starting point to have reasonable expectation for what somebody will do. They also say there are certainly percentage, and they put percentage chances on outperform, underperform, injury, all of that. But if you're talking about involving park factor and history and comparables to similar players, it's a jumping off point for a dispassionate evaluation of possibility.
Okay, so then just for example, why would it specifically predict for Don to have such an amazing season this upcoming season when
because of regression to the career mean?
Okay, and you would believe that?
I would believe that the statistics indicate the possibility of regression to the mean.
Yeah, I think when you say that the possibility, my friend, of hitting 30 home runs, that's not off the table.
But nobody. This isn't a person.
Yeah,
this isn't an opinion.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a chance of that.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that out of hand and say, "Oh, come on, machine! Come on, machine! You could do better." But I wouldn't be surprised if Adam Dunn hit 30.
Colin Wires wrote about it today, and we'll talk to him at 3 o'clock, Joel. But what this does is you have to decide what's more important: his one awful year last year, or all the other years that weren't awful. They all count.
Right. Well, okay, like you said again, it's a machine, but then it wouldn't necessarily take into account that maybe, he just lost something.
Yes, it takes into account everything.
Right.
It takes into account age. It takes into account everything.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, my friend. Keep listening. 3 o'clock, we'll try to break it down a little further for you. But I don't think it's outlandish to say he'll come back with 30 home runs. I don't know how much it'll help the White Sox. It'll help. What did he have last year? 11?
I believe so. Yes.
It'll help more than 11. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think it'll help more than 11.
Like, for instance, the projections for Albert Pujols in Anaheim.
Okay, Albert Pujols in Anaheim.
And again, this is what how he'll hit in that park.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Mm-hmm. But they have him, Albert Pujols, to bat .305 this year with 37 home runs and 111 RBIs, an on-base percentage of .402, and a slugging average of .556.
That's about right.
To be a .956 OPS. Mm-hmm. Essentially, they're saying Albert Pujols is very likely to be Albert Pujols.
Right. Yeah, I think
that's all.
That's all they're saying. I think that makes perfect sense, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to me. I mean, a guy who's done it has a long career of numbers remarkably similar to those.
One guy they have ready for a bit of a drop-off is Alfonso Soriano. Because Soriano, according to PECOTA, will be only at .304 on base and .459 slugging, down to just 15 home runs.
Oh, that's a bad Cub year.
Yep.
And
some of this has to do, because, again, plate appearances are factored in. Because they only have him with 343 plate appearances, which means they believe there's a good chance he's going to get hurt.
It's interesting because there's so many things that happen, and so we'll have to save this and look at these things again. Mm-hmm. There's so weird things in baseball, and I don't doubt that Soriano's fading into oblivion. How much is it now that you can put in there and actually sort of account for the fact that they're getting up in age? Because it was like 3 or 4 years ago, it didn't matter.
They do, because
it didn't matter.
They find trends in the data, not just for this player himself, but trends in the data for historically comparable other players.
Okay.
And here's the problem, though, is how do you account for comparables who used performance-enhancing drugs?
That's what I mean.
That's we'll ask Colin about it.
Yeah.
Because it may just come out in the wash. It may be because there's so much data that it just kind of accounts for all that. But if you're comparing somebody statistically to somebody who had one of the steroid second primes, that's going to skew the data, isn't it?
Yes.
If all of a sudden say, well,
that's what I mean.
As a 35-year-old, he should be here, here, and here, but that's not the way 35-year-olds were in the mid-90s.
How many damn home runs did Bonds hit after he was 37?
Right, exactly.
Like 300? I mean, what? It's like, whoa, wait a minute, time out, Mr. Official.
And that's why people have been watching Paul Konerko very closely.
Well, I would too.
And trying to see what's happening in these years, because at some point, Konerko is just not going to do this. Now, they do not have him set for a major drop-off this year.
He's 35?
Yep, and the projections for Konerko, 28 home runs, a .266 average, .354 on base, and .468 slugging. That's okay. That's all right. You want to be, what is that, 822?
Yeah.
OPS? That's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got to happen sometime because it's just the normal flow of things. Right. I mean, and there were other guys who did. There's a few examples. I'm not sure if they were juicing exactly because it was a while back where they had that season after they were 37 or something. But generally, that's about the course because Paul is right on the end of the course there.
How many home runs did Jose Bautista have last year?
Oh God, 43 or something.
Okay, because he's only slated for 32 per their calculations.
Oh no, that can't be because
he's going to swing early.
Right, he's going to
change his swing
that's
again.
wrong. We're going to talk to this guy at the top of the hour. We're going to have to straighten him out. That is damn machine, his infernal machine. Well, let me ask a question. See, here's the thing: if Jose Bautista is going down to 32, then Joey Votto will have to get there this year.
Well, because that's exactly how the Blue Jays are going to get better by getting Joey Votto.
Phil Rogers, ladies and gentlemen.
And it's funny you bring that up because I was just about to read this from Neurotic Lawyer, who liked your line about a slender thread of a notion based on an idiotic pretense.
Right.
You have just captured the essence of Phil Rogers' baseball writing.
He had one today, too. Oh, my God. I need a pistol in the morning. I'm serious. Oh, my God. But yeah, hey, don't worry about the Blue Jays. Yeah, they're in tough. You got the Yankees, you got Boston, you got the Rays, who are going to be good again, by the way. Great starting pitching, and they're going to be okay. I don't know about the rest of it, but they'll pitch. Doesn't matter, though, because when Joey Votto gets there, the new sheriff, Phil, he's not there. And if somebody else in baseball wants Joey Votto, even though they'll get him. If somebody wants to spend, and who knows what people want to do, they'll spend for Joey Votto.
But maybe he'll just want to go back to Canada and be with his people.
That would be a new one on me. Because Ferguson Jenkins did it. I don't think he ever said, you know what, I want to go back to Canada. Send me to Montreal. Or Larry Walker. Did he say?
No, he wanted to get out of Canada.
Right? I mean, it's like, okay, all right, fine. Everything will be good when Joey Votto gets there. No, Phil, look at that. No, it's not.
I do at least. I'm not going to beat him up too badly today because at least he was using the large sample size Pythagorean data to get some indication of managerial quality. But some of the Bobby Valentine stuff, I'm just not sure of.
I'm not sure.
Really,
I'm not sure.
I'm not.
Well, here, how about let me ask you this: are you sure of this? Are you sure of this?
What?
Let's see. They are winless in the playoffs. This is Boston. He wrote about today. Monster job ahead. I'd like a monster job myself. They are winless in the playoffs since Game 6 of the 2008 ALCS at Tropicana Field, and expectations for 2012, fueled by one of baseball's highest payrolls, surpassed the realistic projections for a team still reeling from a 7-20 September.
I don't think so. I think you forget about the September, and then you look at how good you think the team is. I don't think they begin this season haunted by their failure in September.
Are you kidding me? Today's athlete, you think he's haunted by last September? Where did he come up with that one? Where does that come from?
That's a new segment.
What has he got there?
We're Boers and Bernstein. 312-644-6767. You're listening to The Score.
Are on the doorstep of your business, just a click away from your website. TargetSpot helps you invite them in.
And let me add this here on Chicago Sports Radio 670. This was maybe they won't even make that extra wild card game if we can figure out how to do it. There will be for anywhere from 5 to 10 tangible reasons, not a haunting. They don't need a priest. I mean, it's okay. It happens.
George in River Grove, you're on The Score.
How are you today?
Good, George.
I'm listening to this paradigm numbers. My question is anyone gone back and evaluated?
Yes. Every year.
Is there some kind of a batting average? How does it compare to other?
They do it every year. Because they want to, and they want to make sure that the algorithm accounts for everything. And there are competing projection systems. And
how do they rank?
It's different every year, but over time, this has been as good as any.
As good as any.
Well, which other ones do you look at?
Well, All I know is I watched Adam Dunn last year. And
I was asking, which other projection systems do you trust? Do you like Marcel? Do you like the Bill James system? Zips, any of that?
I have a lot of respect for Bill James.
Yeah, right. Well,
my question is, what kind of a system that would say that Adam Dunn's going to come with 2 home runs of Joey Votto this year?
It's not definite. George, it's just a probability. It's a jumping off point.
I see.
Yeah, George, it's not.
It's also based on what he has done in the past.
Sort of a new way. It's sort of a fun way of looking at all before it begins, and then having fun with it.
You can look at Adam Dunn's numbers and see what he's done in the past, and completely understand why a system that takes the past into account in projecting the future would come up with something like that.
Yeah, see, George,
because for years he hit 40 every year, so it's not insane to think that he could hit 30.
Yeah, let's skip the machine for a second. Let's skip the machine for a second and get to the essence of your call here. And let me. I think I know the essence of your call.
Well,
I think to say, no, you don't think he's going. Why would it say he's going to hit 30 home runs, right?
Well,
I think first of all, he's too young to be done. I mean, unless there's an odd something that happened to him, or he's completely out of shape, or whatever happened. But it's far too at this stage. If he's 34 or 35 and he has the year he had last year, and then you come into this year, you'd go, I don't believe it. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I think to hit 30 for a guy who traditionally hit 40 isn't a quantum leap. I mean, I think he's still perfectly capable of doing that. Does that mean I necessarily believe it? No, but I think it's possible. He's not at the age where you'd say, "Oh, he's done."
That's not crazy.
Done.
As maddening as he was last year, when you account for the balance of history, it's not crazy.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I'm not George. What
are you laughing at?
I just watched him, and all I know is he's no longer a competitive hitter. And
he had a terrible year last year, George.
No, you can't sprinkle magic dust on him or change him.
George,
it ain't happening.
George, it didn't happen last year. We know that. Nobody's disagreeing. We all saw the same thing, but we also saw the same things all the other years.
Well,
that's the point.
George,
if you're that bad, once you go that bad for that long, you got to make some radical changes.
That's not necessarily the case. There have been I believe. But you don't know that. Nobody knows that, and the algorithm doesn't know that. It's possible you could be right, but the fact is you can't not understand why, based on historical averages and projections for similar statistical models and guys his age, that number could spit out there.
Okay. Well, I have one question for you. According to your specific knowledge of baseball, can you be specific? What do you think he's going to do this year?
I have no idea.
George, I don't think it's a matter of what he's going to do, because you can't do that. All I'm saying is that now, obviously, you don't believe it, and that, you know what, you could be 100% correct.
Absolutely, you could.
You could be 100% correct. But if somebody says to me, you know what, I think Dunn will bounce back this year and hit 30 home runs. And again, that's not a monster season for him. And I don't think anybody's got monster numbers for him or will have. But I think that's reasonable, even for a guy just kind of watching it. And I know what you're saying. You watched him an entire year, and it was just pathetic.
Yes, it made us all miserable.
He had the most. That was the worst season in the history of the damn game. I mean, yes, I can understand where the taste in your mouth would still be, oh, I hate this guy, he sucks. I get it. But that wouldn't stop you. And again, forget all the numbers, forget all the algorithms, it doesn't matter. It's your eyes, your scout. And you look at him and you say, this guy's broken. There's something wrong with him. He's either too fat or what. I don't know what it is. His bat is slow. He can't find the right pitch to swing at. Everything he does is just awful. He was an easy out. They broke him down every way possible. And yet, baseball's one of those games where there's no doubt in my mind. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I would hardly be shocked if he hit 30 home runs. That is not a shocking baseball development.
I'd be very pleasantly surprised.
Yes. But not as shocking.
And George could be 100% right that he's just toast and that's it, and it's all over.
You can call us in anytime you want, but maybe in June, and he's got 3, and say, see?
This is an email here from Rudy, who says, there is no chance you will take a single baseball call today from someone that actually understands how these numbers are supposed to work. He says, this makes me miss Dwight Howard as bad calls.
Me too. I miss them already.
Oh, it was still coming in. I mean, some of the tweets and texts and everything yesterday, it didn't stop. I don't know. You're looking at this Dwight Howard thing all wrong. He's not as good as you think he is. He's the best center in basketball.
That's not us talking.
He's easily the best center in basketball. And he's 26. I don't know. I was looking at some of this stuff, and I don't like.
I'll live with that.
He's only averaging 20 points a game, so that you don't really make that move. And somebody else said something again that said, "You really think he's such a good defensive player? Well, how well does he play defense against the Heat?" What? I mean, really?
Oh,
I know.
Man.
Yeah,
Well,
it was rough.
You know, we
yesterday.
make our baseball picks every year, and the tradition is that mine suck. We make our football predictions every year, and the tradition there is pretty much that mine suck. Because unless I'm wrong, I don't think the Packers won again. I had it the year before, though. I had the Packers, I think. But at any rate, I mean, that's the fun of it. That's sort of why we like. You don't like that aspect. I do like that aspect. I like messing around with that kind of stuff. It's nothing but for fun.
See, I like what we do every year when the win projections come out and we match up the Terry machine against the Baseball Prospectus machine. And more often than not, you kind of say, it's very rare that you find one that you go, oh no, that's not possible.
Right. That's correct. That's correct. Well, you know what I miss? I missed the Padres that one year when they won 90 games.
Yep.
Like, woo. We'll be back.
Scoreboard update.
2:30 and from the Chicago Wolves Update Studio, I'm Matt Rodewald. Wolves Flex Packs are 10 undated tickets for the price of 7. Just visit ChicagoWolves.com. Blackhawks have lost 6 straight, but worse, they've lost 8 straight on the road. The last win away from the West Side for the Blackhawks, December 14th in Minnesota. That's nearly 2 months ago. 5 more road games left on this horrible trip. Antoniemi and the Sharks will be up next on Friday night in San Jose. The Bulls will be in New Orleans this evening. The Bulls swept the season series last year and have won 6 straight against the Hornets. Derrick Rose and his back spasms, well, he's fighting them, and he says he's going to play tonight, even though he's a game-time decision. That toe's still bothering him, too. The All-Star Game in the NBA coming up in a few weeks in Orlando. League announced today that it will be in Houston next year. Rockets hosted the game just 6 years ago, and it's been almost 25 years since it's been in Chicago. Conference Shuffle, Memphis moves to the Big East in 2013. That makes 9 Conference USA schools picked up by the league in the last decade, and because of that, Conference USA now looking at a merger possibility with the Mountain West, and that would create a 16-team football conference by next year, and more teams will probably move. Jeremy Bates is the new Bears quarterback coach, but Mike Florio reports today that Jim Zorn was asked to interview for the job. Chiefs said no, though, to the Bears talking with the former Redskins head coach. Ricky Williams told a Miami radio station that a text conversation with Bill Parcells actually convinced him to retire. And one baseball note, the Yankees signed Russell Branyan to a minor league contract. This scoreboard update is brought to you by State Farm Insurance. And don't forget to stop by the Sports Corner at the Toyota display from the Auto Show starting February 10th. That's Friday. And register for your chance to win a brand new 2012 Toyota Camry. Toyota Camry, it's ready. Are you? I'm Matt Rodewald, and you're listening to The Score, celebrating 20 years as the original and #1 Chicago sports station. This is Chicago Sports Radio, 670 The Score, and 670thescore.com, Chicago Sports Station.
You know, I'm trying to think. There was something that happened last year. You got Boers Bernstein, Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. You had read a list to me. There were the things were just so far out, like the predicted records and stuff for teams, that I was losing my mind over. Then it turns out that was out too early. That was based on something else. Then when the actual numbers came out, we were almost in total accord.
Right.
Remember, I was just like, what?
Yes, I do.
What?
Because they looked at it, they thought there was something wrong. So they thought there was something that was miscalculated.
Yeah.
And then you're saying this can't be, and you were right. Your instincts were correct, and they sort of went back and looked at it and said, no, this is weird.
So anyway, I don't think that stuff's out yet, but I love that stuff. I think there's because I have been already doing my baseball homework, so I'm always ready for baseball. But you know, it's just fun. And again, nobody has any idea, but I think there's a lot of things that would happen in baseball this year. And maybe if you're a White Sox fan, you don't believe it. And I understand being a White Sox fan these days is very difficult.
You know what I was really excited to look at, and then I wanted to not look at it anymore? The one name, if you're a White Sox fan, the one name you would really want to see, because we just haven't seen enough, would you agree with me, would be Dion Viciedo,
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Because Viciedo is sort of this exciting unknown. He has an 8-something OPS as a major leaguer, and he performed well in the minors, and there are minor league numbers that are used. There are college numbers even that are used in this with certain adjustment factors. So they use absolutely everything, foreign numbers, everything, every single thing, body type, all of that as far as how certain body types age, all factored in. So here are your Dayan Viciedo numbers for 499 plate appearances. Okay? Mm-hmm. They have him batting .265, 17 homers with 60 driven in, only 25 walks, and 100 strikeouts. See, that's the problem here, because with that, they have him slugging .419, but only on base at .306. Yeah, that's an underperformance.
That's an underperformance, and that's a death knell.
25 walks in 499 plate appearances. I mean, this team, that's the glaring number here in all these White Sox players is on base percentage.
Yeah. Quick, call Susan Sarandon. I'm heading to the gallows. Quick, somebody called her.
Well, I thought you were going to call her to help the pitching, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look,
which way the garter belt goes on.
Oh. But if that's what he is, and after all the stuff that we won him last year, and Ozzie firing back to my savior. No, I know you didn't like him, and you didn't. And I don't think we ever portrayed him as a savior. All we portrayed him as somebody we wanted out there more than Juan Pierre, and maybe we lost the argument because he didn't tear the world up when he got here.
Nope.
But if that's what his numbers are, then yeah, I'm calling Susan. I'm taking that long walk. If he's 17 and 60 and 25 walks and 500 at bats, I'm not happy with that. I'm not really happy with that. And I realize that's a lot of pressure, but he's not a kid, right? Or is he? Was he 22, 23?
Yeah, 24, I think, isn't he?
All right, 24. Maybe. All right. I mean, he's not 20 or 21. I mean, I just look. He's got to do better than that because the guy he replaced. Well, I don't know. He maybe play defense better, but yeah, it would be nice. There would be a guy that you'd say, okay, because I don't know what it is yet. I don't have enough. I can't crunch all those numbers from the past. I don't know what it is yet. I think for whatever reason, it's a very natural thing. It looked like to me like he was pressing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying he's not a crazy swinger because that's what he does. I would also just tell him, just calm down. Just calm down. Let the game come to you a little bit. And maybe you're never going to be any good, but don't always look like you're ready to jump out of your shoes. You can, you've got a record that indicates you can hit. He hit in the minors very, very well, and he could indeed be one of those 4A hitters. But if he's 17 and 60 and 25 walks, or even close to that.
Got some people asking about Starlin Castro.
Ooh.
And Starlin Castro's projections are for a .298 batting average, 332 on base, 410 slugging, 8 homers, 77 driven in. But again, these troubling numbers, 33 walks.
He's another one. Yeah.
95 strikeouts.
He's another one. He's another one.
Right.
But he's just a kid.
Correct.
He's just a kid.
Not as much to work with.
Yeah. I don't.
All right, 3 o'clock, we'll get some hard answers for Colin Wires, and then he'll sort of tell us what surprised him. Sometimes he puts in all the data, and then he presses a button, and then he goes, interesting. Okay, yeah. Didn't expect that. So we'll get his thoughts on it. And his entire national story today was based on Adam Dunn. I mean, really, the story of this year's PECOTA, he framed using sort of Adam Dunn as an example of the difference between past and present and what that means for the future. So
if he'd have been bad, it'd have been one thing.
Historically bad.
Oh, wasn't it listed like the worst season in baseball history?
Yes. From a position.
See, that's a little beyond bad.
Because they let it keep going. I mean, usually it's a situation where when it's that bad, it stops and the guy disappears.
Disappear.
They make it go away. But
he actually did.
They let it keep going long enough to be that bad.
Yeah.
We're Boers and Bernstein. Also, we've been going long enough to be this bad on WSCR The Score.
And even sometimes as painful as it can be to talk baseball, like last summer was a very, very tedious task, we've been talking a little baseball here on Boers and Bernstein, Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score, and just kind of looking at things and enjoying, as always, the outstanding work of Phil Rogers. And there's a lot of things that you look at, and there's so many things. And I actually could use a computer, and that's why we're going to have somebody on the top of the hour can help us, because, it's the most unpredictable of all games. Football, a very close second, but baseball, Lots of luck. Lots of luck with any of it. I'll tell you what. Let me tell you something that I think is really, and it's an oddity. It's an odd thing, but I think one of the more important signings of this offseason, there were several signings of note, obviously. You got that's some big dollars going that way. I really think, and I could be completely wrong, I think getting Carlos Pena back to Tampa is a huge deal for the Rays.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
I think that's a huge
lot of people
deal,
think
kids.
That. You know, I have to stop looking at White Sox projected on base percentages. This is really making my ass hurt. AJ Pierzynski, 299 on base percentage? I need to stop.
My God, you may have to sit there 2 hours before the White Sox get a base runner. Wait a minute.
I got a good one here, though. Here you go. Here's Alejandro De Aza at a whopping, you can't get me out, 329.
Wow.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Well, the White Sox game go. Well,
right
a guy out of the 7th. Oh, okay. Good. Very good.
Right now, the highest projected on base percentage on the Sox is Adam Dunn. The 357. I think I need to stop.
Paulie was way up there last year, was he not?
He was last year, yeah, but he should be around. He's usually around 350 or so. It's about right.
He was way above that last year, though. He was.
If you're hitting for power, that's okay.
So Adam Dunn. Okay, and I know it makes people mad, but it's not us. And all I'm saying is it's not out of the question. It's not like, well, that'll never happen. You know, the dangerous thing about baseball is saying that'll never happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not silly arguments like the Cubs winning, not yet, but I mean certain things, certain guys that are 35 and above. I mean, 35 is a huge cutoff thing, and to make it makes it like it used to be again. You got to rearrange your thinking again. Mm-hmm. That when they're 35, but Adam Dunn's not 35. He's not 35.
No, he's 32.
Yeah, there should be no reason. He's still right in that window when you should be at your best, 28 to 32.
Bill is calling from his car. He's on the score. Bill.
You got trouble.
Having problems today. Bill, are you there? No, Bill is.
He called George.
That's
what
I
really wanted to talk. Right. You got a better number. Call George.
Please, somebody call George. Not George Hoffman. He's not waiting for your call.
It confuses George. What are you talking about, Adam Dunsgan? Who the hell you get that crap? No one.
We all saw the same stuff. But again, who would have predicted he would have been that bad last year? That's the thing.
Anywhere, anytime.
Nobody. There was no reason whatsoever to believe last year was going to happen.
No, none. There's no predictor. There is no. Although they said, didn't he struggle the last quarter, whatever the year before Washington? He didn't.
However, that's what's interesting. I want to say it was either Prospectus or Fangraphs that actually found hidden indications that the investment in Adam Dunn was a bad idea because what they believed were trends in pitches seen. That his desire, that he stopped, he went on a tear where he had a very high batting average of balls in play with the Nationals, where everything he hit was going out of the park, was falling in. It was actually not going out of the park, because those don't count for BABIP, but where he was hitting more line drives, and his the normalized 300 average of the balls in play was well above that. And their theory was that it wasn't really a theory, they proved he was swinging more.
Okay.
That he was swinging at more first pitches, that he began to be less the hitter he was in Cincinnati. And that was really the outstanding Adam Dunn, was the true 3 outcome guy. It was walk, strikeout, home run.
It was sort of, yeah.
And he stopped being that, and they was going in that direction when he got to the Sox, and then you just had a confluence of other bad things with his conditioning and switching leagues and designated hitter and everything else.
It's interesting because when you look back at him, and he was one of those guys that 3 years ago, whatever it was, that sat in that room and waited for somebody to call with Bobby Abreu, and just kind of sitting in that room and nobody really calling, just kind of, you know what? And he was coming off solid years. It isn't like he was a bum But there was nobody really jumping out. He sat in that room forever, and finally the Nationals scooped him up. He had 2 solid seasons for them, 2 very good seasons, and the next thing you know, the White Sox are giving him $60 million. He was one of those guys, though, and I've said this before. Nobody in baseball had ever given him anything close to a 4-year contract. No, nobody had ever done that. They got him out of there. They weren't going to go the long route. They weren't going to go that kind of money for that long with him. Why, I don't know. Because if you look at his numbers in Cincinnati, would he have been, he was sitting in that room waiting for somebody to come forward. I mean, the guys that you want weren't sitting in that room. They were the kind of the guys, and Bobby Abreu actually has played well. Not last year particularly, but he was better than I thought he would be when he became an Angel. He better than I thought he was going to be. But if I'm Adam Dunn, though, or anybody, it goes for anybody, I don't want to play the Phillies that many times.
No, that's
I don't want to do that.
One of those last National League teams that still makes you really, really nervous.
I don't want to do that. And I know they didn't win. I understand it, but I don't want to play them during the regular season. 18 times or whatever? I don't want to do that.
Top of the hour, Colin Wires of Baseball Prospectus joins us to make some sense of this. Maybe this is all new to you. Maybe you don't really understand some of it. And truth be told, I don't either. A lot of these numbers don't have a ton of meaning when I actually see them here. So the rule is you try to kind of stick with what you know and build outward from there and just accrue some of the knowledge and understanding as you go on. Because I know, especially for Cubs fans, you got to get into this now because this is how your team is being run. They've got their own stuff. They're putting together all their own things. But these printouts and this data, this is defining how the Cubs are building toward a World Series championship. You have Boers and Bernstein on The Score.
You're listening to the #1 sports station in Chicago. Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Chicago Sports Station.
We will be talking a little bit of baseball. We'll get some help with all these things that are coming out, the numbers, because I don't really know much. But I do know this, that I've learned enough. And I don't want to be a general manager because I'm really too busy to do that and really help people. But I understand the value of all this stuff, and this in particular, I love these preseason because it gives me a great base. You form something in your mind, and you go, well, that's what I think it is. I don't do it so much with all the players because that's a little too confusing for me. But when the stuff comes out for the teams and stuff, I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate it. And generally, you know what, though? They're just as wrong as I am about some of it.
The text from the 815 says the Sox on base percentage should be bad overall, but I bet Diaza's up over 350. I don't know. I
signed Ozzy.
You're right. I don't have a real reason to think that. I mean, why? Diaza's not a kid either. Isn't he 28?
He's 28. Yeah. What would lead you to believe that?
I don't. Usually at that age, you can give a guy more time. But we get a pretty good idea of what Alejandro De Aza is. He's kind of like a guy.
He's kind of like a guy.
He's a little snappy, fast guy. What was he last year? Was he 350 last year? But I know they like him, but that's not a guy, well, I got to find a place for this guy. He's an up-and-comer. He's played his way into the lineup. He's 28! That's fine. I liked him last year because he wasn't other people.
Right. You got to appreciate him more because he wasn't the rest of them. Mm-hmm. He wasn't Juan Pierre. Oh, Juan Pierre. The Phillies, by the way, they invited him to spring training, and I'm pretty sure he'll make the team because there's a couple guys that are just done, just finished. And Juan, I don't know what he'll add to the Phillies, but it'll all look a lot better there than it did here. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense to you. It won't be any better in terms of what he actually does. But on a good team with that kind of pitching and all that stuff, and he actually caught the ball better than I thought he would last couple of years, he'll be, it's hard to be really appreciated on that Phillies team because you're just sort of a guy with all the guys with all the big checks running around. But that's a perfect place for Juan Pierre. That's the perfect place. He won't irritate you. And he'll never get a word of attention the entire season. He can be the starting left fielder, and there'll never be anything written except when you see his name in the lineup.
Right.
I mean, every once in a while, maybe. But are you kidding me on that team?
We had some people asking what the numbers projected for Prince Fielder.
Okay.
Saying that he's going to be in
Good question.
He's going to be in a new park and everything else. Mm-hmm. And these numbers are generally very conservative. They almost always err on the side of conservatism, and if they get an outlier, congratulations to them.
Yep.
But Prince Fielder, based on his averages, 687 plate appearances at age 28, 284 batting average, 37 home runs, 104 driven in. This is the fabulous walk-to-strikeout ratio of 92 to 117, a 391 on-base percentage, and a 533 slugging percentage, translating to one of the best seasons in baseball.
Well, I think that would make Detroit happy, don't you?
I think
that'd make them happy?
You know what that's called what you paid for. Right?
Yeah, I believe that's the term. That's the official term, yes.
Return on investment, or ROI. Colin Wires of Baseball Prospectus joins us. He needs to explain his computers on the score.
This is Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Celebrating 20 years as Chicago's original and number one sports station. WSCR and HD Chicago. Scoreboard update.
3 o'clock and from the Chicago Wolves update studio, I'm Matt Rodewald. Been to a Wolves game yet? The Wolves are home 6 more times in February. Visit ChicagoWolves.com. From first in the Western Conference to on the road to start the playoffs, the Blackhawks have fallen all the way to the 6th position in the West thanks to 6 straight losses. Jonathan Toews.
We got lots of, I don't want to say lots of time to fix the problem, but we want to get this rough stretch out of our system and get over this hump and get back to playing the way we can as a team.
And with 65 points, they're still just 7 points back of the Red Wings, tops in the West, and the nightmare road trip just continues in San Jose on Friday. Hawks are actually getting a practice in Denver today, a practice before heading to Northern California. By the way, the University of Michigan has given the okay to the NHL to use the Big House for next year's Winter Classic that's set to feature the Maple Leafs and the Red Wings. Bulls and Hornets tonight in New Orleans. The Hornets are not very good. Still, Derrick Rose is fighting the urge to sit. He says he's going to play tonight, even though he's a game-time decision with back spasms. Joel Prisbilla is still deciding between the Bulls, the Heat, and his couch. And Houston will host the 2013 NBA All-Star Game. College hoops, Penn State will travel to number 11 Michigan State tonight, while number 22 Michigan is at Nebraska. Notre Dame heads to West Virginia, the Irish looking to make it 5 straight. Other top 25 games, a good one tonight with number 12 Georgetown at number 2 Syracuse, also 7th-ranked Kansas at 6th-ranked Baylor, and Duke and Carolina tangle in Chapel Hill. Jeremy Bates is the new Bears quarterback coach, but Mike Florio reports that Jim Zorn was asked to interview for the job, but the Chiefs said no to the Bears in talking with the former Redskins head coach. And the Jets are going to stick with Santonio Holmes. Roster bonus today picks up his 2012 salary to $15 million guaranteed. This scoreboard update is brought to you by stcharlestoyota.net. Qualified buyers get 0% APR financing on 9 new Toyota models, exceeding expectations at stcharlestoyota.net. JCPenney's done with all the games and gimmicks. From now on, just great prices from start every day. That's because that's fair and square. And that's JCPenney's. Your Menard 670 weather forecast. Mostly sunny today, highs in the mid-30s. Clear skies tonight with an overnight low of 21 degrees. I'm Matt Rodewald, and you're listening to The Score, celebrating 20 years as the original and number one Chicago sports station. This is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Chicago Sports Station.
This hour is brought to you by Sport Clips Haircuts. Visit sportclips.com for the location near you.
Boers and Bernstein.
Great cash, homie.
Chicago Sports Radio 670. The Score.
And this hour, Boers and Bernstein, brought to you by Northwestern Basketball, Chicago's Big Ten team. The Cats host Iowa. Yes, that's all I deal in.
Are you Jewish?
Yes.
And Jason, too, because as we know, Jason is a member of the Get Money Boys.
Yep.
So they're based out of, Houston?
We have subgrouurs as well.
You do?
The money-making maniacs as well are trying to get money with the Get Money
See,
Boys.
I didn't understand that because they said they were the Get Money Boys, but then he turned around and on the
money-making maniacs.
Yes, on the back of his jacket it said money making.
I told my
maniacs.
uncle that my little cousins who are now 8 and 5 are going to be members of the Get Money Boys as well.
Oh, they already are?
Yes.
Oh, there's no question.
My aunt said they would never wear those jackets.
The Cats host Iowa tomorrow night at 8. Visit nusports.com.
Great cash, homie.
888 Go Purple for tickets today. There's several reasons I don't mess around with Jason, and one of them is he's too closely affiliated with the Belizean mob.
There is no Belizean mob.
I think there is.
Didn't read that story.
And joining us now on the Home Run In Pizza hotline, stop into one of their 8 Chicagoland restaurant locations today. He's a man with a machine, and the machine has produced numbers. We have the numbers, and the numbers, as always, they make people mad because people don't understand them, and they look for people at whom to get angry. But all this guy does is just turn on the machine. He's Colin Wires of Baseball Prospectus. He's with us on the Score. Hi, Colin.
Hi, how you doing?
We're doing well. How about you?
Doing good.
Well, I love the fact that you based the rollout of PECOTA 2012, a lot of it based around Adam Dunn because of tweaks made to the system and how certain years are valued. So take us to the beginning here. If people don't know what PECOTA is or what it does, how do you describe it to people?
Basically, what PECOTA does is it takes a player's past stats and looks at how players historically have performed and uses that to construct a model to project future performance using past performance. It takes a player's past performance and analyzes it and figures out what things have more predictive value than others and uses that to come up with a projected batting line. And then we look at how similar players have aged and use that to come up with an aging adjustment to that, and that gives us an estimate of how we think a player is going to do next year.
When you say age adjustments, be more specific with that, because we were discussing this before, Colin, about the fact that nowadays we see, where a couple of years ago you could be 37, 38, 39 years old and tearing the league up. I mean, nowadays it looks more like you're 35 or 36 and things are slowing down for you.
Well, it depends on your skill set. Certain kinds of players age differently, which is why we don't, just apply a blanket age adjustment to players. We look at what comparable players have done, and we look at their specific skill sets. A guy whose main skills are based around things like plate discipline gets better as you get older. Walk rates almost never peak. A guy's walk rate is going to go up pretty much the entire time he's in baseball. Things that are based on speed skills, like stolen bases, start to drop almost as soon as a guy gets in the league. Things like defense start to drop almost as soon, probably before a guy even makes it to the majors.
Really?
How many guys do you know that started off as like shortstops when they were drafted and end up, their first time in the majors, they're already at second base or third base or center field?
A lot of them.
Right, that's true. They usually go down that ladder of positional difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so defense is something, especially when you consider position as part of that, something that peaks very early in a player's career, possibly even before they're ready to be in the majors. So it's almost a straight drop. Things like power tend to peak later because, it takes a while for a body to fill out and generate, you'll see guys that when they're young, that have doubles power, and as they, get to their peak and pass that, matures into more home run power.
Well, have you done anything to adjust for known steroid users or even suspected steroid users? Is there anything you can do to say, well, these power increases in this comparable may not necessarily apply because we know that this guy wasn't entirely human? Or do you have enough historical data that all that stuff eventually just kind of comes out in the wash?
Well, what we don't know about steroids is a lot more than what we do know about steroids is how they affect baseball players. What we do is we don't just compare players to, historical players without taking into account the league that they played in. We know that the 90s and early 2000s especially were a heavy home run hitting period, and we know that we're not in that same period exactly right now, although we are still, I think, pretty high relative to norms of like the late 70s, early 80s.
Now, was there anything that you saw when you got these first results after everything you guys do every year to tweak the algorithm? Was there anything that looked odd to you? Anything, whether it was a general trend or something specific that raised your eyebrows? Hey, boy, I certainly didn't expect it to spit this out.
when I was looking at the team level forecast, which we haven't put out yet, the Giants projected to have a pretty good record. And not that I expected them to be bad, but their offense is not what one would call inspiring, but they've got a pretty healthy win projection, and that's based on their pitching and defense, which is something that they do have a lot of talent at.
Well, you're giving us a little bit of a scoop here, because if I always wait for those win projections to come out, so I imagine that as the texts are rolling in here, can you give us any indication as to win projections for the Cubs and or White Sox this year?
Yeah, I can do that. Just give me 10 seconds to pull up.
Yes!
And these are based on forecasted playing time, which, as you know, I mean, it's still early February. Teams don't know exactly what guys they're going to have where yet. Teams are still signing players. So these are very provisional, but the teams you guys are going to be interested in, we have the Cubs. I'm sad to say, we have the Cubs at about a 460 win percentage. And, Cubs fans aren't going to be happy to hear that, but I don't think they're going to be too surprised the way the offseason's gone. They've gone ahead and, traded away a few guys and let a few guys leave through free agency. And, they brought in some guys that, have the prospect of having high upside, but the most likely scenario is that they're not going to be great. Guys like Stewart. White Sox are a good deal better. Not quite as good as you would hope, though, about a 480. Again,
well, there's never going to be anybody on base for the White Sox. That's the other problem.
I'm looking at these on base percentages for the individuals, and I'm thinking I got too many outs in this lineup.
Yeah, there are too many outs in that lineup, and you think that they could have held on to a guy like Carlos Quentin, who could provide some offense for them. That would have gone a bit of a way to helping them. But they've, outside of the big extension they handed out this offseason, they haven't really done much to improve the club, and they've done a few things that, in the short term at least, look like downgrades.
So if my math is right here, multiplying 162 by 460 and 480, I have a range somewhere around 74.5 wins for the Cubs and 77.7 or 77.8 for the Sox. So, well, it's kind of exactly...
I think that's about what we expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
I think the one thing we started talking to you about it, you mentioned it, that the one thing, we've already made a guy mad about the Adam Dunn stuff. There's already one guy mad, and that's amongst countless others who are also mad about this, that called and say, well, there's no way that could be right. Who does that stuff?
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that reaction, and I'll admit Dunn looked terrible. I think part of the issue for White Sox fans is they didn't get to see the good Adam Dunn. If Dunn had been a guy that had been in the organization for 5 years, and they'd gotten to see him putting up 38 to 40 home runs consistently for a 5-year stretch before this happened, I think he'd have a longer leash. If you look at a guy like Jock Jones, who wasn't a spectacular baseball player, but he wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. He had a pretty rough start with his career in Chicago, and I don't think Cubs fans ever really got over that. So I think first impressions mean a lot as far as how fans approach a baseball player, but in terms of projecting him, the fact that he just moved to Chicago. Mm-hmm. Really isn't an input. We take a look at the totality of his playing experience, and while you have one really putrid season, you have a whole bunch of really good ones, at least as far as offense goes.
Yeah, I want to say it was Joel Sheehan who wrote something about the numbers indicating a potential decline in Adam Dunn, even starting in Washington, looking at batting average of balls in play and the number of pitches he was seeing, that really even though his numbers held up due to an abnormally high BABIP, that he just wasn't Cincinnati Adam Dunn even in Washington, because he just didn't seem like he wanted to try as hard to walk.
I honestly don't have Adam Dunn's walk rates right in front of me.
No, I'm just curious, you're off the top of your head, your thoughts on that.
Dunn's a guy that, is infuriating to watch when he's not hitting well, and kind of infuriating to watch even when he is. Because, he goes up there and he sits and he watches pitches,
Then he swings at something at shoulder level and he goes and sits down.
Yeah.
That's,
and, a lot of strikeouts, a lot of walks. Fans like to see the ball put in place. So he's an infuriating player to watch. But, a guy that takes that many walks and hits 40 dingers a year, and, he wasn't that last year, but, he's been that often enough that you have to account for the probability that, he goes back to doing something like that. Now, we provide in the PECOTA forecast day, okay, this is the most, I want to say the most likely outcome, but the outcome that's most likely to be close to the truth. A guy like Dunn, it's very possible that what you're really looking at is there's two most likely outcomes. One is that he bounces back and becomes, pretty much the Dunn that he was the past years. And then, the other outcome that he just continues to be really bad. And then, it's sort of more like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing than, actually hitting the projection.
Right, that it's it's going to be one extreme or the other. Either he's Adam Dunn or he's not Adam Dunn. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. And then, this is, the single point forecast is the average of, okay, what does Adam Dunn look like plus the odds of him being Adam Dunn again? What does being really bad Adam Dunn look like? And what are the odds of that happening again?
Colin, we appreciate you jumping on with us. Thanks for your input. And look, I'm glad the machine made people mad because we make people mad all the time. And I'm just jealous, kind of to putting together relative madness of it all. That's proper phrasing. Because really, I think at the end of the day, we'll make more people mad than that prediction does. But that 30 home runs thing has already got people going, what's the matter with you guys? But anyway, my friend, we appreciate it.
I just need to know, with all the time that you spend with the algorithm and with these numbers, do you ever project a personality on it? Did you ever anthropomorphize it to the point where it's almost like you have a relationship with this sort of pretend brain?
It's funny. I've been accused of doing that from time to time, talking about PECOTA as though it actually thinks about things. But the reality of it is that PECOTA is not just it's not Skynet.
Right.
It's a bunch of instructions that people, largely myself, Rob McCone, and a few others of us, Baseball Prospectus, along with work from guys like Clay Davenport and Nate Silver before us, have put together to project future performance. And so, the computer does all the hard manual labor, but it's not a computer forecast. It's realistically, it's a human forecast. Humans come up with the thoughts and ideas and concepts that go into actually, making it. So, and, I think what it does is it allows us to focus on, what matters rather than what seems important to us just looking at it.
Well, see,
it allows us to divorce our emotional feelings about what's happened from, what tends to do good at predicting future performance.
But now you've got me frightened because you used the Terminator reference to Skynet, and now I'm thinking, what if PECOTA becomes self-aware? And then what if it gets together with like Marcel's and Zips and all that, and then the planet's history, you know that.
Well, they're going to start in Anaheim. They're not going to.
Well, I know the first thing they're going to do is they're going to kill Hawk Harrelson. That's the one thing it's going to do.
And then George, I think, they'll go get too.
It's immediately going to go get all the old school scout guys first. It'll spare Theo. I think that Theo's preparing for the eventual self-awareness of PECOTA. Anyway, Colin, thank you for helping us try to figure some of this stuff out.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Colin Wires of Baseball Prospectus with us. I tried. I'm allowed to.
Holy Toledo! What a way to finish!
All right, we have the second half coming up at the bottom of the hour. We've got Hub at 5 talking football, and you still had basketball stuff.
I do,
you?
Yeah, just stuff we've discussed before, but it just gets worse and worse.
Okay, as long as it's not people calling in saying Dwight Howard's bad.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad.
I can't take a day.
It's not bad.
I can't take a day of, you guys get off Dwight Howard's jock. You think Dwight Howard's so good? What do you know? We got Joakim Noah.
That's right. Maybe they're right. You got Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Yes.
I love the off-air show going on. I love that stuff. That's great.
Yet to come today, we've got Mike Bibby, Ted Hendricks, and Jack Ebling will join us.
Ken Satterfield.
Ken Satterfield, yeah, he'll be with us. Kareem.
Any college player ever.
How about, was it...
Kareem's joining us.
Hey, top of the hour, we're going to have Orlando Ledbetter get an early look at the Falcons.
Who was the Ivy League pitcher that couldn't put a sentence together?
Ross Ohlendorf.
Yeah. He'll be joining us.
The guy who successfully handled his own arbitration hearing, right, without a lawyer.
He'll be taking Hub's place today at 5.
But couldn't successfully handle a baseball interview.
We have Devin coming on this
Devin's on
party for this weekend.
How about former Hawks general manager Coach Alpo Suhonen and general manager Mike Smith?
And Hamp's got a season wrap-up at 4:30.
Great. Was it Felix Melion? What was the guy's name? Jackson Melion.
Jackson Melion.
Right, Jackson Melion, who
he didn't understand a word we
didn't
said.
speak English.
Scottie Pippen's going to call to hang up on us.
Scottie Pippen's going to call.
Good.
Oh, who was the Cardinal that we had on? The baseball player.
Miguel Cairo?
George.
Yeah, we had.
I think it was Miguel Cairo.
Yes, Miguel Cairo. Yes, I believe in Cardinal.
I believe in Cardinal. Yeah.
Yes.
So Matty's got a busy day. He's booking like crazy.
You've got work to do.
Yeah, his content was good. It's just
it's the delivery.
He had a breathing apparatus problem.
Can we call Mike Bibby?
I love. Did you hear what Mark
Bibby be
Schnowski
flopping,
said
though.
about Mike Bibby earlier today with McNeil and Spiegel? Because Mike Bibby should have retired 3 years ago.
Well, that's.
I know. It's
Mark is
Someone
absolutely
keeps
correct.
him.
You know what? Schnowski is really good with his basketball analysis. You know, there's a lot of guys in his position.
He's a good guy too.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys in his position that are just kind of
Pass the ball guys
TV
who don't know
guy.
what the hell they're talking about.
Right. They're just kind of
Schnowski's
TV
the
guys.
truth.
Mark Schnowski knows the game. I mean, he really is a basketball guy. He's not just a guy at a desk throwing it to people and keeping them on time. He's not just a point guard. I mean, there's.
We live in Cardinal.
Yes, Miguel. We know.
We're also getting John Madden for later too.
And Anthony Herrera.
Yep. What's the problem there? What do you got, son?
My stomach hurts.
Something.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're lighting them all up for you kids because you know why? We think you deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-oh, the 815 has chimed in. I'm switching over to Christian radio.
This is Christian radio. You didn't know
that?
Right.
We deserve it. We deserve it.
I would say that for the 815. That is probably the only person that flips between us and Christian radio.
Well, my grandmother was alive. She did that too.
Seriously. Like,
Actually, Tim Tebow does that too.
I think you probably need to
Tim
pick
Tebow
one.
streams us online until Terry starts talking, and then he flips over to Christian radio.
Oh, that's not true. I think we would get along famously if we knew each other better.
I think that most people will either choose bomb-throwing nihilism or Christian radio. They don't necessarily like to get a little bit of both.
Yeah,
that's not true because you always have to know what the other side's doing.
Here's what you know. What though? Here's what I know. That list of bad guests is way too long, and we haven't even scratched the surface. You know?
Terry, it's been a long show, though. I mean, you guys, 13 years almost.
Yeah, but Maddie, that's a long list already.
A lot of airtime to have a lot of bad guest opportunities.
But that's not counting when I hosted on the weekends. I mean, think about that. If the
your shows are monumentally better. Your shows made me think I could do this.
The Boers and Bernstein guests are one thing. I did an interview with Greg Ostertag. When he was
two idiots.
When he was either I think we woke him up in his hotel room or something, and it's like he didn't understand the questions.
He was two idiots,
and I think
by the way.
might have fallen asleep during the interview, and then he was
whose fault is that?
Actually,
I think that happened to Ronnie Brewer and me not too long ago. After Joakim Noah's birthday,
what
happened? I had the
I remember that one. Yeah,
booking Ronnie after Joe's birthday.
Yep,
and they all
remember
got
that
in at like 3:30, 4 in the morning.
And Ronnie's such a nice guy.
And he did it. He did it no matter what. And I'm like, yeah, Ronnie, we're gonna have to pull the ripcord on this one.
You told him that's it. Phone
no,
call.
yeah, we did it like a 6-minute interview, I think it was with McNeil too, so that made it even worse. It was like making real every stereotype that basketball players ever had. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna let this ride.
Like you could actually
we can talk hockey now.
You could hear the buzzing of the tattoo needle.
Right.
It
was tough. Ronnie was still asleep, and
it was just brutal. We're not the only ones, but really,
you do it more than often.
We do, yeah. So we're going to kill the second half and talk to Kenny Satterfield. Is that what it is?
The other guy says Des White's got to call in at some point.
Remember an Atlanta beat writer, there's a Bears report guy.
Orlando Ledbetter.
That's right.
I
wasn't sure if that was his name.
The guy who was standing in like a 40-mile-an-hour wind at the top of a mountain.
My favorite by far.
Okay, guys, I will tell you about the Atlanta Falcons. That guy. Yeah.
I think we should give him another chance today.
Absolutely. 3:31 from the Chicago Wolves Update Studio. I'm Matt Rodewald. The Wolves Flex Packs are 10 undated tickets for the price of 7. Visit ChicagoWolves.com. The Blackhawks continue to slide down the standings. 6 losses in a row now. It's the longest losing skid since the 2007-2008 season, and they were on the ice in Denver today, getting a practice in before heading west to San Jose. They'll be taking on the Sharks on Friday night. In the meantime, the Bulls are in New Orleans tonight. Bulls swept the season series last year and have won 6 straight against the Hornets, who are not very good, and Derrick Rose and his back spasms are still going to try and go. He says he's a game-time decision, but thinks he will play tonight. Bulls, Heat, or sit on the couch? Tough decision. Joel Przybilla will eventually figure it out soon. Conference shuffle. Memphis moves to the Big East in 2013. That makes 9 Conference USA schools picked up by the league in the last decade. And because of that, Conference USA is now looking at a merger possibility with the Mountain West Conference, and that would create a 16-team football conference next year. College hoops tonight. Big Ten, Penn State travels to number 11 Michigan State. Number 22 Michigan is at Nebraska. Also, Notre Dame heads to West Virginia. Irish looking to make it 5 straight. 4 games are in state tonight. Northern Illinois entertaining Miami of Ohio. Bradley hosts Indiana State. SIU battles Missouri State, and Illinois State takes on Drake. And finally, Ricky Williams told a Miami radio station that he texted Bill Parcells to express how much he was looking forward to coming back next season. And Parcells responded, don't chase this thing too long. So Ricky stopped, and he retired this week just like that. This scoreboard update is brought to you by American Family Insurance. 3:30 time for the closing bell report. The Greek financial infrastructure is an absolute mess, but the markets actually ended up today. The Dow Jones finishing up 5 points and a change. All 3 markets are going higher, which is good. That's good for us, bad for them. 12,883 is where the Dow Jones finishes up at. NASDAQ up 11 points, almost 12 points to finish at 29.15. The S&P up about 3 points to end up at 13.49. That was the closing bell report. Sort of. Brought to you by MB Financial Bank, a trusted Chicago bank for 100 years. I'm Matt Rodewald, and you're listening to The Score, celebrating 20 years as the original and number 1 Chicago sports station. This is Chicago Sports Radio, 670 The Score, and 670thescore.com, Chicago Sports Station.
Anheuser-Busch.
He's good!
Anheuser-Busch.
He's good!
And now, it's time to begin the second half.
Anheuser-Busch.
He's good!
Well, the first half of the show, we got a little bit of news, actually, and it sort of dovetailed nicely with what I had already started writing about. Colin's going to post in just a little bit using the new information that Terry confirmed. My suspicions were correct, that the reason the Bears sort of made disappear the passing game coordinator, that he was there, they were looking for him, they were trying to find him, and then all of a sudden, poof, he ceased to be.
Yep.
That's because Mike Tice said, come on, guys, you're making me look like a clown.
Right. Remember, he was gone for some of that time, too, after the season. I remember there was some period in there where he was gone, but yes, that's exactly the way he felt, and the Bears finally said, oh, we think you're probably...
You're right. You know what? Good for the Bears that they realized they were about to Bears something.
You're right.
And they unbearsed it before they Bearsed it. And
that's exactly what they did.
And that's, you know what? That's to be applauded. Because
yes, it is to be applauded.
Usually they find some way to mess it up. And they realize, this is really stupid. We're going to make a guy an offensive coordinator and then say he's incompetent to coach passing. Probably a bad idea.
Yes, that's right.
And we also talked about the recently released PECOTA projections, and we had a conversation with Colin Wires of Baseball Prospectus. And transcripts will be available, as they were, Glenn reminds us here, for the Ronnie Cedeno interview we promised also.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that one, too. Thank you. I always take this as a sign of trouble ahead. And it won't be big trouble for him because he's made a lot of money doing it. But when a basketball coach, an NBA coach, starts taking on the fans, it doesn't really work. And your guy in New York is doing that. And that's the basic message from Mike D'Antonio was to go easy on Jared Jeffries. Well, D'Antonio lectured the Garden fans for booing Jeffries, saying they should, in his quote, re-examine their life a little bit.
Why?
Indulge me for a second. Anybody who boos Jared Jeffries has got to re-examine their life a little bit. I love our fans, and I like Madison Square Garden, the arena, but here's a guy who came back to us minimum contract. He could have gone to a lot of other teams. He plays as hard as anybody could possibly play every day. And Mike, you're probably right. That's probably true. Although I never thought I'd ever hear a coach say, go easy on Jared Jeffries. I didn't think I'd ever see that, but not in the Garden.
The Bears have reached an agreement with their new offensive line coach. He is Tim Holt.
Wow.
Holt has 17 years of football coaching experience, including the last 3 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wow.
Last year, he was Tampa Bay's assistant offensive line coach after working as an offensive assistant coach for the Bucs in 2010, concentrating most of his work on the offensive line. 14 seasons coaching collegiately, including 10 working with offensive linemen.
Outstanding.
So here he is, ladies and gentlemen, your new Bears offensive line coach, Tim Holt.
And this is the way, you're just a little bit out on spring training here. You really don't want to spend like your time visiting MLB doctors.
Right.
And that's what Josh Hamilton is doing these days. He visited doctors for Major League Baseball and the Players Association this week in New York following his admitted relapse with alcohol. Let me tell you something about Josh Hamilton. He's a wonderful player. He's hurt too much for my taste. I wouldn't entertain notions of giving him a long-term contract, and maybe the owner won't either. But that's what he wanted to do. When he has a relapse, he has a relapse. You know what I mean? This guy is something special, as you mentioned there. Anyway, he's got to go to all these people now. He's got somebody with him. He's got to be watched 24/7. When you do this, and again, it's even if it never happens again, and maybe it won't, because if you're going to tell me I got a little bit of my off season left, I got to go to New York and see doctors and others involved with. No, I really don't want to do that. I don't have much time left anyway. I got a family, I got kids, whatever you're doing. But all I would suggest for Josh Hamilton and the Texas Rangers is you made a mistake.
This is something that was breaking on Twitter last night. I know Maddie was one of the people who sent this story around, but it just doesn't stop with the obfuscation from the Penn State people, and it's particularly galling after Rodney Erickson is spouting all of the talking points about transparency. Remember?
Yes.
About trying to explain to people what they do and why they do it, and then they get punished for doing that. They explain why Joe Paterno was fired. They couldn't have been more clear, either rhetorically or morally, and they get absolutely pounded for that because people in Pennsylvania are insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, yes.
And it's every time something comes out, it's something more that you just can't believe. And it continued with now the knowledge that the 1998 police report about Jerry Sandusky, and remember, that was involved. That involved setting up microphones in the kid's house. Remember, the kid returned with wet hair. That's when Sandusky said, I wish I were dead. Mm-hmm. And he explained everything that he was doing with that kid.
It also was the year that Joe Pa said, you will not be the Penn State head coach.
Right. Showering with the kid. Now, Penn State says they will not release any of that report. They will not make it available, and they are hiding behind a convoluted legal wall that they built because of where they fall technically as a state university. That they're not technically, I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but they're not technically considered a state university, so they don't lose state funds until it applies to them exactly.
They're not a state school. They're a state-related institution.
State-related institution. Thank you. That's exactly the wording. And apparently, Graham Spanier, the disgraced school president, as recently as a couple of years ago, was lobbying in the state legislature to keep Penn State's ability to not turn over documents just like this. I ask you, do you think that's a coincidence?
No.
I think it was 2006 or 2007 before Congress to keep the right to know laws to not apply to Penn State.
And it brings up all these questions, and really there aren't any questions. When you start looking at really when they knew, with a 160-page report, and their reasons for saying, well, there were no charges filed, so we can't really release the report. I think that report may end up being subpoenaed and introduced into one of these cases.
Right, and there were no charges filed in that 1998 case because the director of campus police, Thomas Harmon, said stop the investigation.
Correct.
Therefore, you stop the investigation, then Ray Grykar, who disappeared, couldn't file charges because there was no investigation.
Correct.
The bottom line for me is, aside from all the other obvious stuff that troubles most people with a brain, is that while everybody wants to keep insisting in Penn State that Joe Pa didn't really know any of this, he knew all of this, and it just gets worse and worse. So here's what it boils down to for me. He didn't want him to coach Penn State, despite 30 years of friendship. Didn't realize they're really interested in him in actually becoming the head coach or his successor. Maybe he didn't want a successor. He cared enough about it not to have him do that. But he didn't care enough about it that when somebody came to him, and he knew this was going on then because there was other things as well, and you know damn well all of this came to his attention. And then when it comes to him 4 years, when he actually gets caught doing something, he still acts like it's the first he's ever heard of it.
Yeah, but thankfully, though, in that story yesterday, that at least there's people in that community and teachers at that school that don't want him in their community. That made me feel good, that there's at least people somewhere there that know he's a slime bag, don't want him staring at their children, that his neighbors don't want him around their kids.
It's shouted down, though, by some,
It doesn't matter. At least there's some sane, regular, normal people there.
Unfortunately, the napalm attack is going to get them too.
Unfortunately, we paint with a broad brush.
Not enough, but at least there's some there.
Yeah, we're going to sacrifice some good people in the eventual napalming of all of Pennsylvania.
I'm firing up the Enola Gay. That's Second Half. We do it every damn day. Now we always ask what you think. 312-644-6767. We put a lot of baseball today, and going to get to a little basketball here in a little bit as well. And then at 5 o'clock, our guy Hub joins us, and he's yours for the last damn time. We got Chicago Sports Radio 670 Score, Boers Bernstein. And Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. We're lining them up like crazy. Kids. And speaking of lining like crazy, before I get to my bigger basketball point at the top of the hour, that you've got yet another tonight the Bulls play in that Hawks game. Oh, boy. That's just not providing a whole hell of a lot of entertainment for you lately, is it? That's just not doing much for you. I did not realize, here's how dumb I am. I did not realize that the Hornets were this bad. Like 4-21 bad.
Well, all you do is pick
this
up
is like a road trip that I think we could beat these teams. It's unbelievable. You know, it used to swing through the East and run into a problem here and there. You know what I mean? You'd say, okay, they're swinging. Oh my God, why are they still there? Why do the Hornets need to exist? Help me with this.
Well, Al, they probably won't for much longer. There's just not money down there,
right?
And there's
that's
just
my
not
bigger
interest.
point.
It was hard enough to make sure. I mean, the Saints are a religion. The Hornets.
The Saints are
not.
a religion. The Saints have become a religion. And there's only one man that's made them a religion.
Breezes.
No,
he almost ruined them. He almost destroyed them single-handedly.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's Breezes. I understand. Look, they say the same thing about the football team in terms of selling the corporate stuff and getting the bigger price and all that other stuff that still exists. But I not with Drew Brees at the controls. I mean, I'm sure they're very happy about their football team, and they still need to perhaps find a defense that wouldn't make Alex Smith look great. They could have won the Super Bowl. But at any rate, I look at that and I keep saying to myself, okay, you've expanded to a point where it just plain sucks. It just plain sucks. And you say, okay, Bulls game is entertaining. It's fun. You can, but then you look at it and you go from the Nets to the Hornets.
Did you look at their projected starting lineup tonight?
I did not.
Okay. This is your projected
Eric Gordon
starting
is hurt,
lineup.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is your projected starting
give me
lineup for the New Orleans Hornets.
Thumbs up or thumbs down on this
Okay.
one. Yep.
Grievous Vasquez.
He is not.
The General.
He's not.
General Grievous.
Yeah.
Marco Bellinelli. Emeka Okafor. Gustavo Ayon. And Trevor Ariza.
What?
What?
What are you
That is
talking
an
about? What are you talking about?
A team. Grievous
That's
Vasquez.
not a team.
Marco
No, that's
Bellinelli.
the worst.
That's
NBA
not a team.
Emeka Okafor, Gustavo Ayon. Even Gustavo Ayon has never heard of Gustavo Ayon.
But his family members.
Right. They have no idea who he is.
What are you talking about?
And Trevor Ariza.
No.
The disparity between the good teams and the bad teams in this league is more than it's ever been.
I've never seen anything like it. You need relegation. You need these teams to just play each other.
Well, because I think people get used to the NFL mold where it's, the 7-9 team can beat a 12-4 team. That doesn't happen in the NBA, really. Not often, at least.
No, not enough. Where's Jared Jack?
Yeah, he's their leading scorer.
Where is he?
I thought he was playing, but apparently to this starting lineup, no.
And I know Gordon got hurt.
Yeah, Eric Gordon's been hurt the whole. Well, Eric Gordon's been unhappy the whole season.
Well, yeah, he's been unhappy. Wouldn't you be unhappy when you look at you're 4-21?
Wait, where's Chris Paul? Oh, he's not here anymore.
Oh my God!
Kamen's coming off the bench. He just got back for the first game, I believe, a couple nights ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's really
God.
You got to turn on the TV and watch that.
Oh, by the way, this hour is brought to you by Sport Clips Haircuts. Visit sportclips.com for the location near you. No, I generally, like last year, I look forward to it. And this is what I want to get into at the top of the hour. But after the top of the hour, I should say. But, seriously, is that really their starting lineup? Or is that just like some mythical thing that's happening? Is that really?
Look, did you ever do the agate page or actually typeset? You know how sometimes they'll put in placeholders? Sometimes they'll put in guy's own name just because they have to have random
You swear
name
that's
in
what
there.
this is.
Right. That looks like names they left in there before switching them out.
Yeah, I had to put the Sunday paper to bed. I started on, Saturdays like at 3 o'clock or whatever the hell it wasn't. You had to get the first Sunday paper out early. Yeah, it was one of my job when I first got there was to put the Sunday paper to bed, as they like to say. How about putting me to bed? The hell are you talking about?
The hell you say?
That's an old John Wayne movie right there, waiting to happen.
Yep.
Also gave a halftime speech.
So did you
about
ever get
America.
to your basketball stuff?
I did not. We'll get it at the top of the hour.
Can we please do that? Because you've been teasing us with it, and I don't like to be teased, and I'm ready.
Jared Jack!
And I need basketball things. Now, can you get mad at him, or you just can't get mad at Jared Jeffries?
I never thought I'd be screaming for him.
Don't.
But you gave me that lineup. Why do I want to watch them?
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. It wasn't nice of
Are you kidding me?
I apologize. Are you nuts?
now.
All right. Keep it here. Terry's basketball thing on the score.
By all accounts for the NBA. And I realize what happened and what led up to it. First of all, I never would have believed, if this is indeed the case, that so many NBA guys had just figured this season was a wash, so they weren't in shape. I mean, I can't prove that by numbers. I can't. That's what people say. I can't prove that's true. I can't prove it's false. And maybe in some cases it's true, some cases it's not. Well, that's a problem. The second thing is that for whatever reason, and I have no idea about this either, and maybe I think there's a correlation between the two. You look around the league, and you just hit it there when you read the Hornets starting lineup. There's nobody in their right mind that wants to pay $1 to see that team play.
Right.
That's just worthless. And as you look around the NBA now, when you look at some of these box scores and you look at who's missing, and now Carmelo Anthony, the latest of the big names to be gone for a week or two, injured himself the other night. I mean, when you look around this league, and you're already struggling in some ways. You had a terrific year last year, but, goodwill only goes so far. And there's other things going on in the league as well. But can you tell me a better solution than what the NBA did, compressing 66 games into this season? And again, I can't necessarily correlate the fact that everybody's missing
Even if you hadn't, let's say you just played a 50-game season.
Right, that's what I was thinking, to go 50.
So what? They're still out of shape. It doesn't matter. So now you think practice time was the difference? You think if you do a 50-game season...
Yeah, you would have had more time to get ready, right?
You either way, you would have more time.
If you did on a
between
50-game
games.
season in the same amount of time, the games would have been more spread out.
Right, so you'd have better recovery time and better practice time.
There was a week period where the owners knew that pretty much everyone would lose money. There's still guys who are losing money, but not everyone would lose money if you got 66 in.
They also wanted the big Christmas.
Well, you could have got the Christmas in and only played a certain amount of games too.
That's true. I just think,
but they didn't want to
lose.
They didn't want everyone to lose money.
It's troubling to me. I'm not. I like the NBA. I really do enjoy it. But you two guys are far bigger NBA fans. I just, and even I covered the league. Although I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being around it. It's fun. But I just look at this day after day after day after day, and I'm going, isn't there a better way to have done this?
I don't know.
Isn't there something you could have done?
Even so, you're not changing the fundamental problem. You're not changing the inequity between the handful of good teams and the mostly awful.
But at least you're giving some teams a puncher's chance if you got other guys on the court. You can't put that lineup for New Orleans out there. And look, maybe Eric Gordon's had problems before. And I don't know where Jared Jack is. I don't know what's wrong. He's probably hurt too. But I mean, I'm not saying it's causing all of it. But it certainly is leading to something that I only read as disaster. It's just not interesting in so many cities. It's just not the same.
Mark Shanowski brought it up earlier on the Score today with Mac and Spiegs. This idea of if you are a working class Chicagoan who gets to go to one game a year, and you look at what the actual cost is of tickets, even if you get them via the secondary market, by the time you get past parking and a souvenir or two, and you get there, and maybe it's a game where Derrick Rose isn't playing,
right?
And then and then you see the opponent look like this. It's improperly valued,
right?
You're wondering if you got to start giving fans a break on some of this stuff because they're not really watching NBA ball.
No, I think that's my bottom line here. And look, I am not smart enough to figure out where to place the blame. I make a confession here. I really thought of all the guys that play sports that the NBA guys would be more likely to stay in some kind of shape in the offseason, would be more likely to stay in some kind of shape, even though we've seen some tub-a-lubs in there over the years, but more likely, and those guys are known for that, it seems to me. And maybe they just thought to give up on the season. That's what we've been told by people. Hey, what do you expect? They didn't think they were going to play, so they went out and had fun. Well, I'm not against fun. I like fun, but I just think you've done something here. You're coming off a great season, just an enormously interesting season where you had the team everybody hates, and you drew attention to that. You had all the all the things, and you had the dramatic finals where all of this added, and then you come to this where your product. And because of this, and look, I understand you want to make money. I get it. And like Jay said, 66 games, you can probably still cut a profit if you're some teams. But you're doing yourself and everybody involved with this is such a horrible product. And I'm not counting all on injuries, but a lot of it.
There's been a handful of really good games.
Yeah, a handful.
But
talking about across the league or the ones that you've seen the Bulls play? Because across the league, there's a lot of good games.
There are, but there's also too many bad games against too many teams like this.
But the Bulls are coming up against two of the worst teams in the NBA and played one of the worst ones in New Jersey.
Well, they're not even playing the guys that you can actually see playing, though. I mean, it's like you have to almost eliminate the chances of something happening on a road trip when your guys that is your best player's not playing. And Jay, it's getting to be a habit.
I'll be really unhappy if Derek plays tonight.
I would be too.
He's probably going to play tonight.
They have to tell him, no, you're not playing tonight. It's stupid for him to play tonight.
It is stupid.
It's stupid.
I don't even know who those guys are, by the way.
I understand it's his job. I know that there are people who say if the player wants to play and feels he can play, he plays. I get that philosophy, but there are people who need to at times overrule that, and this is one of those times.
I don't think they view the back spasms as
ongoing
chronic and as severe as the toe was.
I'm not ready to say was on the toe. He's still not. He's not.
I'm
jumping.
I'm not saying the toe is over, but I think they look at the toe more so than they look at the back spasm. I think they look at the back spasm, him taking a hard fall in Milwaukee, and Tom actually warning people that his back might tighten up on him.
Yeah, I'm looking at all of it, and I just think it's dumb to have him play.
Well,
I don't want him playing tonight.
You know, you got the Bulls have their own problems, but they've played well, and they've played a handful of very interesting games. But I think there are guys out there that love this league. Love this league.
I'm one of them.
Have watched the games, are enormously interested in the games, and maybe your suggestion is right. All I know is, aside from the Bulls for a second, just the whole big picture of this league, you're just producing something that is just no damn good. And I mean, I don't know what you think you were doing here, because I think we all kind of looked at the schedule and say, "Are you kidding me?"
Well, you know, but the fact is too. Let's not get too skewed by just watching Bulls
And
games.
I think that's exactly what's happening.
It's been that if you just watched Bulls games,
They kill everyone because they're one of the best teams in the NBA.
I think that's easy to see. But there have been some West games when I have stayed up
Almost every single night.
some of those that late game on TNT
Last night was the best game I've seen this year.
has usually been gangbusters.
Which one?
Oklahoma City and Golden State last night. Ramonte Ellis scored 48.
Yeah, but
David
Golden
Lee had a
State
triple-double.
is one of those teams that they're not great, but they've stayed healthy, right?
Who?
Golden State.
Well, Steph Curry's missed a lot of time for them, and they've had their bumps.
And there's injuries every year.
The Western Conference, you're talking about the top 10 teams in the Western Conference are above 500.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people like to go, "Oh, there's going to be a team that gets into the playoffs under 500." You don't want that to happen. You don't like for that to happen, but you're not scared of that team advancing because they will be dispatched immediately.
Yeah, summarily dispatched.
Now, trust me, Terry, the product I don't think is where it needs to be right now, and that's evident. But if you're just watching Bulls games, and if you're basing that on your NBA fandom, and I'm not saying that's you, but anybody out there who's consuming the Bulls product, they might be liking it because they're killing everyone. But there's a lot of competitive games going on in the NBA right now, especially in the West.
It's usually that late game, though. It's hard to stay
Where
up
I'm
for.
sleeping.
It's exactly. So I think your perspective it might not be completely different, but it would definitely be
All right,
effective.
last night with the Pacers. Pacers played last night on Fan Night. The Pacers are a damn good fun watch. I mean, they do a lot of things well, and they got the high flyers, they got the fundamental players. I mean, they got everything you need.
Size, yeah.
It's hard to keep a continuity going with a league where everybody's missing for whatever reason, whether it's you can't play that many games or something else has been tweaked or something else. I mean, it just seems to me that you're way into something now, and the East is especially decimated. I realize that, and I realize the games in the West are probably okay. I mean, I've seen the Thunder. Yeah, I can stay up once in a while, but most of the time I'd be sleeping. By the time you got to Golden State, it's over. It's done. And I know they can be a fun watch. I'm just saying that in general, when you get a lot of people feeling exactly the way I do about it, that this was such a greedy play to play 66 games in the time you're doing it. I mean, did you really help yourself with that?
Well, it's either that or have no product at all this year. Which one would you rather have?
How about Fitty games?
Yeah, it's not all or nothing, though. You could have probably...
It was, though. The last week of their bargaining, they felt like everyone is going to lose money if we hold off another week. Kevin Harlan has come on a couple of times and talked about it. And they could have held out for another week and gotten a little bit more, but everyone would have lost money. And in the end, you either going to lose money all across the board, or say, you know what, we're going to try to squeeze out as much as we can, one or the other.
Yeah, they didn't have the guts to go to the mattresses at the end. So that's what you end up with.
Well,
you got fired coaches, too. Now, you may have the benefit of getting a reset on some of these teams because you got a coach that wet the bed here.
Well, New York being bad, I think, impacts the East a lot as well. Because if New York is what they should have been, kind of like around the 4th or 5th seed, you're talking about Boston and Orlando being 7 and 8, and those are pretty good 7 and 8 seeds. Those are two teams that a couple of years ago we're talking about Eastern Conference champions. So Terry, I completely understand what you're saying, and I don't like it all the way. But there are some entertaining teams and some entertaining games and people that you don't expect entertainment from, like Minnesota right now and Houston still
without
playing
your guy.
hardball.
They won without your guy.
Yeah, Houston.
Kevin Love?
Houston surprises me.
They beat Sacramento.
I'm surprised Houston's that good because of their
Kyle
coaches.
Lowry is playing like an all-star point guard that nobody's talking about.
And Chandler Parsons is great.
Stop.
No, he's not great, but he's playing at least. He's
in the
NBA.
You know,
my guy Danilo Gallinari got hurt. But he was playing like an all-star in Denver.
Was he still shooting it every time?
He's become a lot more efficient, and he's actually been putting the ball on the floor a lot more. He's a really good player.
As a Knick, he just wanted to shoot it
Well, that
every
was because
time.
he was getting poor coaching.
That's
what he was told to do.
And now they have a point guard.
Now when George wants to open his mouth, he gets good coaching.
Have you seen that they have the Jeremy Lin?
Yes, my guy.
Has been discovered, the Harvard point guard who had a little D-League time.
The Asian assassin.
Just by doing what he's asked to do.
He's an aggressive pick-and-roll point guard, which is what that offense needs.
J.J. Barea, but he's becoming a megastar. He's had two terrific
right
games.
Market for it, too.
Yep, he's had 2 great games.
And he can't shoot to save his life.
Doesn't have to.
But sometime they're going to say, okay, you can drive the lane all you want. We're going to put you on the ground, little guy.
Sometimes you do.
How tall is he? 6'2"?
6'3".
6'3", okay.
Yeah, no, there's some interesting stuff out there, but you have to really enjoy basketball to enjoy what's going on right now.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think you really have to love it sometimes to enjoy. And I'm not saying there aren't good games. I just think that
it's a new slogan. Instead of where amazing happens, the NBA, you really have to love it to enjoy it.
And then I heard Terry saying, can the Hawks get some of those games the Bulls got? Some of those opponents, like the Hawks, have been running up against juggernauts the last week or so.
Yeah, but they're missing a key piece.
Well, Terry, didn't Edmonton just put 17 goals on their ass back to back?
Edmonton, Calgary, and Colorado?
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the easy part of the trip.
Right.
Now you're going into the real teams.
The Lions are never easy, my friend.
Beat one of these real teams, probably. No, the Hawks thing is bad. Hawks thing is really...
Well, I know it's bad. That's why maybe I know it's bad. It's just that this seemed to me, from the very beginning, so forced and so outrageous. And again, I have no pity for you if you weren't proud enough of what you do to at least stay in shape just in case.
There's too many... As far as the Hawks go, there's too many shots of Coach Q writing things down on his little card after somebody scored.
What's he writing?
I never understood that.
What's he writing?
Don't you get a printout after...
Taking the notes of what he's seeing out there.
But after every...
Keep your notes.
It's always after a goal, though.
Keep your in-game notes. How you got scored on. Why? Bill Belichick does it, too, if you watch that documentary the NFL Network had on him.
He's always writing something down?
He's always writing things down and things he wants to change that he sees on the field.
Then change it. You've been able to write down a lot.
Well, then change it already.
3 days of practice.
But watching the film, you might not be going through the same emotion that you went through seeing it right there on the ice.
I imagine that he's just writing down like, screw this guy.
Screw this guy. He's writing
no
down,
more brandy for me.
Screw him. They said we're going to get back to basics. We're going to remind ourselves what we do. They stood around. What are you doing out there? The Jameson Distillery was established in 1780. It's been hosting parties for over 230 years, and McNeil and Spiegel and friends will be there this year.
Matabatacola is one of those friends.
Jameson, the official drink of St. Patrick's Day. Maddie's going on the trip?
This whole thing doesn't happen without a Matabatacola, damn it.
Yeah, I'm the friends, and that's a little annoying, actually.
Oh.
I thought I was going to be one of the friends on this trip, too.
Like the super friends?
Yeah, but they don't need me.
How'd you swing that, Maddie?
Well, Maddie's got friends in high places, dude.
They needed someone fun on the trip.
Right. Dale couldn't live up to it.
I would think Brendan McCaffrey would be
No. They need someone that can actually control himself.
Yeah, that's true. You set him loose in Ireland and never see him
Among
again.
his people? Yeah.
Oh.
That'd be a problem.
Biac Biombo.
We're doing a broadcast on the Friday the 16th at the Jameson Distillery.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun stuff planned.
Are you going to be on that show?
No, I don't plan on doing anything on air-wise. I'm going to have fun and be online as far as like Twitter and that kind of stuff.
I hear Mitch is going, too.
Yep, I have a tee time for Saturday the 17th. Already playing some golf that day.
Life is good.
Oh, yeah, life's real good. I get to hang out with Mitch, Jay, Mac, and Spiegel.
Well, let me reformulate my thinking on that.
We're Boers and Bernstein, 312-644-6767. You have the score.
At 425 Chicago Sports Radio 670, the score. Boers and Bernstein. Don't forget, top of the hour. It's your last shot, kids. Unless there's breaking news or some odd thing, and that won't involve you. That'll just involve us. Your last chance with Hub Arkush before he bids us
adieu. That's it. Hey, Did you see Will Ferrell will introduce the starting lineups in New Orleans tonight?
I did.
Now, it says he's down there filming a movie. Mm-hmm. Is this part of the filming? Or is he happen to be down there filming a movie and he's just doing this for fun?
Movie, yeah. think he's just doing a movie.
Because, sometimes you'll see one of these games where they'll bring some actors out there because they have like that moment for 3 takes out there in front of a crowd or something like that.
I wasn't
Vince Vaughn at the
that
UC
way.
for no reason. With the Blackhawks in the background.
Right.
Well, I know he's a Blackhawk fan. I don't want Blackhawks people
let me
to
ask
get
you a
mad at me
question.
right
What
now.
do
It's
you
like
think
I always remember in Coming to America, the scene where they're at the basketball game and he stands up and he goes, "In the face!"
The St. John's game.
And they're playing.
I don't know.
They're playing the Rick Smits Marist team.
Really?
You actually see the Duncan Dutchman dunk, if I'm not mistaken.
That's my guy.
Lost
That's
his feet
my guy.
way too early.
Yeah, good player.
Is there, by the way, any and I don't much pay attention to them anymore. I liked a lot of them early, but are there been any Will Ferrell movies of recent vintage worth watching?
Any what?
Any what? What'd you say, fool?
Any worth watching?
Yeah, any Will Ferrell movies of recent vintage worth watching. I mean, I see them all the time, and everybody says they suck, and I just completely bypass them.
Well, I like the Talladega Nights.
That was okay.
The more I watch it, the funnier it gets to me.
That's a long time ago, though.
Yeah, is that 10 years ago?
Yeah, that's a long damn time ago. I saw that in Maui.
Yeah, he hasn't put much out lately, right? He's put out those silly kid movies like the Journey to a Far Land movie where it was the Land Down Under or some garbage he made.
Land of the Lost?
Yeah, Land of the Lost, Land Down Under.
Down Under. That's different. The Land of Fomunda, where they find the Fomunda cheese.
Well, but you know what I mean? It's just like every one of them is reviewed worse than the one before.
Yeah. But he doesn't really need a
That's
hit.
what funny guys do nowadays. They go through that phase where they just put out garbage.
Don't forget then the serious turn. There has to be
Jonah Hill.
There has to be the one attempt to do something serious, like Bill Murray or Jim Carrey. They have to do something like that.
Adam Sandler's done that, hasn't he?
I've never really found him
Spanglish,
funny.
right?
You never found Adam?
I've never really found, like, in little spots, but I've never said, man, I got to go see this Adam Sandler movie.
No, but that's what he does. People immediately go see Adam Sandler movies because they love him.
He did more media at Media Day and Super Bowl week than anybody I saw on television or on radio or heard on radio. He was on everything with that That's My Boy movie. I guess Rex Ryan is in it as the Patriots fan or coach or something like that.
The big dumb idiot. He's just starring as himself. An idiot.
Did you know Rick Smits now collects and races vintage motocross motorcycles?
Nobody knew that, and you do neither.
I do. I didn't know that a guy was
Todd
7'4". If this guy's 7'4" on a motocross, at least Todd McCullough's just playing pinball. He's a professional pinball player. He's
Well,
just
when you're
standing
7 foot anything, you look weird doing anything.
there. Yeah, that is true. I saw a guy walk in the grocery store the other day, had to be 7'2".
And you know what sucks? His life, because everyone asked him, where did he play basketball?
And but if that, and my first thought is, did he play? Who is So he, I don't think he did. He could barely.
That's the worst when you didn't play any basketball and you're that tall.
I know.
Well, I think you always answer yes.
But what do you tell him?
Davidson.
Well, that's like
played
you
at
played at
Davidson.
David. That's when I was at the Super Bowl. I ever tell you the story? We were at the Super Bowl in San Diego, and I'm at one of the press conference. We get off the bus and we go into the hotel ballroom, and one of the security guards there, he's wearing the big yellow windbreaker, and he's 7'1", easy. And I look at him, I said, that guy looks familiar. I said, that looks exactly like one-time Laker Peter Goodmanson. He's from Iceland, and I knew him because he was in the CBA briefly. And I said, that looks exactly like Peter Goodmanson. And I thought it was because I knew it because he spelled his name Petur, the Icelandic spelling. And as if out of a cartoon, I walk across the room and I look at him, and on his yellow windbreaker, his name is stitched Petur. So at that point, I'm pretty sure that the 7'1" guy standing there who looks exactly like Peter Goodmanson
is filling out a restraining order.
Is that guy. I'm looking at him and I said, you played for the Lakers, didn't you? He's like, yep, yes, I did. How'd you know?
By you.
I think
Hard to fool you.
Yeah, I think Columbo was able to piece this one together pretty well.
But that's what you
Just
say.
one more thing.
Yeah, I got a little more question for you.
Yeah, that's what they say. That when you see a guy like that, that's the answer. They just tell you must have played basketball at Davidson. That's why, and you're done.
But usually
Davidson can never recruit
exactly.
height.
If you're that tall, you didn't go to Davidson.
Yes, you
you
did.
went to a major conference.
Yes, you did. But it ends the conversation.
And it's the only thing is when you get guys in the barroom argument. It was like, that guy sucks. If I were 7 feet tall, I would have made that.
I dunk everything.
Do you know how many 7-footers are awful?
A good 75, 80% of them.
Yes, maybe more.
Probably so.
I think probably higher.
I'm waiting for those 107-foot Chinese players that they had over there that they were growing
right?
that I heard about in the 90s.
250, I thought.
Yeah. How many of them made it over here?
But they would go to the local villages, and if they'd find the 7-footers and the kids, they'd take them.
Remember the camp?
Send them to camp and make them good at basketball. Maybe that's how they found Jeremy Lin, and then he shrunk.
That's the other thing. How many times have you seen a player of Asian descent, the backcourt, though, that make it? You haven't had backcourt players
on
that
Phoenix,
make it.
Yuta Tabuse.
See, now you're making people up.
No, I'm not.
I can't ask you anything.
Yuta Tabuse. And then we saw
That's an African player.
Do you remember? I pointed him out. There was a D-League game on. We were at the OTB in Niles. And there was a D-League game on.
You see the things that you remember, but you can't remember your reads outside of the studio?
And I pointed to Terry. I said, look, that's the Japanese point guard. He turned it over 4 straight times. And Terry looks and goes, yeah, he's looking good. That's your guy right there. Looks great.
Well, usually if anybody's backing a loser, it'd be you.
Yeah. Scoreboard update.
4:31, and from the Chicago Wolves update studio, I'm Matt Rodewald. Wolves Flex Packs are 10 undated tickets for the price of 7. Visit ChicagoWolves.com today. All right, the Bears coaching search is all done. Tim Holt is your new offensive line coach. The Bears made the announcement last hour. Holt comes to Hallisall from Tampa, where he was the Bucs' assistant offensive line coach for the last 3 years. Prior to that, lots of lower-level college experience that dates all the way back to 1995. Blackhawks have lost 6 straight, but worse, they've lost 8 straight on the road. Last win came away from the west side for the Hawks. Well, that would be December 14th in Minnesota, nearly 2 months ago. 5 more road games left on the trip, plus they're fighting off the flu bug now. Antiniembe and the Sharks will be up next on Friday night. Bulls are in New Orleans tonight. Bulls swept the season series last year. They've won 6 straight against the Hornets. Derrick Rose and his back spasms still bothering him. He says he's going to play, though, even though he's a game-time decision. Bulls, Heat, or his couch, Joel Prisbilla is eventually going to pick someone. Make a decision on that, and he'll do it soon. All-Star game coming up in a few weeks in Orlando. League announced that it will be in Houston next year. Rockets actually hosted the game just 6 years ago, and it's been almost 25 years since it's been in Chicago. Baseball broadcast schedule is released today, in case you're curious. The Cubs will play 2 Saturday night home games at Wrigley Field on national TV. Middle game of the White Sox series on May 19th, and the middle game of the Red Sox series on June 16th, plus Sunday Night Baseball, thanks to Theo storyline with the Cubs and Red Sox. White Sox will get the Brewers on the south side on June 23rd for a Saturday night game on Fox. Plus, they'll start things off against the Rangers opening weekend with Sunday Night Baseball. Conference Shuffle, Memphis moves to the Big East in 2013. That makes 9 Conference USA schools picked up by the league in the last decade. And Ricky Williams told a Miami radio station today that a text conversation with Bill Parcells actually convinced him to retire. This scoreboard update is brought to you by American Family Insurance. And don't forget to stop by the Sports Corner at the Toyota display from the Auto Show starting February 10th. That's this Friday. And register for your chance to win a dinner for 2 with football legends Steve McMichael and Keith Van Horn. Toyota, moving forward. I'm Matt Rodewald, and you're listening to The Score. Celebrating 20 years as the original and #1 Chicago sports station. This is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Chicago Sports Station.
And this hour brought to you by Terry's Lincoln of Orland Park. For more than 300 new and used cars to look at, visit terrys.com. Let me just say this too. What's that stat I gave you? I mentioned this a while back, and I want to say, you're talking about just giant people.
Yes, I'm talking about giant happy people.
Yeah, giant happy people. It wasn't a stat, because I asked you, I said, what do you think the percentage of Americans, I can't go national, I can't go, international on you here.
The percentage of Americans who think Dwight Howard's bad.
High on this show.
Yes.
Very, very high amongst Boers and Bernstein listeners. But the percentage of Americans that are 6'4" or taller. Remember I told you
5%?
this? 5%.
Right.
5%. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about 7-footer. I mean...
And it's not just basketball. If you look at professional athletes, you look at left tackles and look at wide receivers and look at pitchers.
Yep.
No,
but but trust me, there's still plenty of them out there bad.
Right.
Maybe 7 foot, but bad.
I've seen most of them. There was a guy that came out of school. I remember seeing the pre-draft camp, a guy named Chris Christopherson. And I remember saying to Jerry Krause before, I said, I said, Jerry, I don't care. This is all, we were just talking at the pre-draft. I said, I don't care what you do on draft night at all. Just do not draft Chris Christopherson. I said, I said the only thing, I said, whatever you do, don't draft that guy.
And then he took Mark Randall to make up for it.
I actually got a laugh out of Jerry, though, after that. No, I think that was the year of Marcus Pfizer, I want to say.
Oh, how long did Mark Randall last in the NBA, by the way?
Too long.
He lasted a while, didn't he?
He was the last pick, though, in the first round.
Yeah, but I mean, he
should have been the last pick of the last round.
Yeah, that's why when you go back and look at some of these drafts, you look at like the 70s and the 80s when there's 12 rounds to a draft.
Oh, yeah.
Now you get 2 picks and you're like, man, that second pick, don't ever think about him again. Now, back then, you had guys in the 6th round who were, real players.
No,
yeah, you did. You had guys who were getting picked in the 4th and 5th round who were players. Now you get to the 35th pick and you're like, yeah, this draft is players.
Over. Even with it being international, it used to just be get all the major schools and all the names that everyone saw on TV would get drafted.
Well, all the draft lists are usually so many international players. I don't even know who the hell they are. I can't even tell you if you haven't seen them. You don't know anything about them. At least, at one point you knew who they were, even if they were, because when I started covering the Bulls, there were 7 rounds. 7 rounds of bad coming in the training camp.
I want to say they cut it to 4.
And they were like, we're letting way too much bad in.
And then they realized that they were cutting all the second-round picks.
Yeah.
So
everybody always talks about how European basketball has helped NBA basketball, but no one ever talks about how it's like detracted from it too, how it's taken away from it. Because now you've got big guys who all they can do is shoot. Nobody has a post move. That's why you see the centers now, guys who are 6'10", 6'11", are facing up. And that wasn't the case for a while. Then you got all these stupid offenses where people think if you shoot 3-pointers, you'll be able to win some regular season games and never win a title with it.
Who else is running it? I mean, Phoenix still runs a variant of it, and New York is running it. But I don't think most teams are running point guard based double stack stuff, NBA stuff.
Well, it's become more back to the basics because you can't touch anybody on the perimeter. But before, when the zone was first instituted, and we're like, oh, we can just shoot threes because a 3 is better than a long 2 or a mid-range jump shot percentage-wise.
If you've
got 3 good shooters on your team, you can pile up points on people.
Yeah, guys who shoot long 2s are despised. And there's a lot of guys that surprise you.
Unless you're forced into it. Yeah, you step into a long 2, you're an idiot. You should really slap yourself on the way down.
Yeah. There is somebody who shoots a lot of long 2s, but he tends to make them, and that's Luol Deng. Notice that
last few games though, he's been dancing around that arc. He knows that the contact isn't what's best for his wrist, and he doesn't have to push it to the limit right now with these dudes.
That guy, Luol Deng, I'll give him credit.
Last 2 years, he has really resurrected his image in this city,
and he's certainly made his contract look like less of a lead balloon because he's earned those dollars, and he's really become a hell of a basketball player. I'm not saying that he's a star of stars, but he is a very valuable player.
He became the second option on a top 5 team in the NBA, which I never thought would be the case.
Yeah, you'd still put him in that package from Dwight Howard, though, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to get people to think we're talking out both sides of our mouth.
No.
That would be absolutely not a problem for me. I would go ahead and do that.
You think Dwight's as dominant as he should be?
Depends what you mean by that. I think defensively he affects a game just by being himself.
Talking about what he plays against every single night and what he should be doing.
With his size and athleticism, should he be 30 and 20 every night? Well,
think about an era. How many Hall of Fame centers are in the NBA right now other than Dwight Howard, maybe? Not one. Not one.
Because Tim Duncan's a power forward, right?
Yeah, Duncan's, not him.
I mean, Duncan is if he's a
center. He is, but Duncan on the wrong side of the Tim Duncan thing. He's
most nights Howard's matched against a bum.
Probably 3 nights, 3 or 4 teams, I should say, that he goes up against somebody that he really has to deal with. Other than that, I think he should be doing a lot more.
Yeah, the tough nights for Howard are what? Brooke Lopez,
Andrew Bynum,
Andrew Bogut,
Roy Hibbert,
maybe Marc Gasol.
Yeah. You got 5 or 6 teams.
So Kendrick Perkins physically can stay with him a little bit, always has.
But he is there's no doubt he's the only Hall of Fame center playing.
I think he should have Shaq numbers.
he doesn't have Shaq moves.
I understand. But Shaq had to have those movies against guys like Hakeem and David Robinson and Patrick Ewing while they were still good.
He moves differently than Shaq.
Yeah, I understand that.
He's much more of a V-shaped athlete.
Dan, as explosive as he is, I need him to get 26 a game. I need that out of him. I can't have these nights where he's got 12, 14 points, but since he got 22 rebounds, everything's okay.
And what is his highest season average?
Yeah, what's his highest season average?
I think it's around 22, 23.
See, I think he'd get that on the Bulls.
I do too.
But who's taking the ball out of his hands on that team?
But they're
on Orlando.
What's weird is they seem to be running, and this is something that I've noticed too. When you look at teams that run 4 out, 1 in,
they shoot the ball too much from the perimeter.
But it's a natural understanding that the principle of 4 out, 1 in is the double team's got to come from somewhere, and then you kick it out and rotate. And what happens is the big man in those offenses sometimes becomes passive because really what you want, ideally, you want him to dunk the ball every time. The second option is to kick out for the open 3. But it ends up inverting, and it ends up being the first option, and it's natural when the big guy's like, okay, where's the double team? Where's the double team? Well, go through the double team. Go over the double. You're allowed to do that if you think you can, and if you want to, you can draw the foul.
His highest points per game average was last year when he averaged 22.9. Wow. He's 18.3 for his career.
And what is he this year?
20.9. And he's getting 12 shots a game this year, which is his highest. 12 free throws a game, which is his highest in his NBA career. And he's taking 13 shots a game, which is also his highest in his NBA career, tied for last year.
I just don't think he's as naturally selfish as Shaq either. And I don't know if that's how you just tell him, say, look, shoot it every time.
But he was bitching about not getting the ball when they were on the way out last year.
But he still does.
I think he's a phenomenal player, but I think he can be. How many times do we talk about Dwight Howard in the league with no centers? How many times do we say Dwight Howard's a top 3 or 4 player? Never. Never, ever, ever. He's always 6, 7, one of those guys.
Now, you would think the best center in this league would automatically. I think that's fair.
What he is, what Dwight Howard has been throughout his career, and some of it has to do with perception of him because of his teammates and so forth, but he's always a guy, and there aren't many of them, I don't think, but he certainly, because he's the best at what he does, he's the best center in the NBA, leaves you wanting more.
Of course.
He does.
And Shaq did too with the rebounding numbers, but Shaq would put 27 a game on you.
Yeah. Well, he's a giant. You can't do anything with that guy.
But Terry,
they didn't even know how to officiate.
I think Dwight, where he doesn't match the girth, he matches the explosiveness.
But
he's jumping over centers. But that's all the lobs that he gets. I mean,
but that's different than what Shaq did. I mean, Shaq had moves you weren't
he
even
didn't know how to
allowed to
officiate his games. I understand all that. Right. And his feet were crazy, and he had great hands. But come on, Dwight, you're not playing against that many good centers. He should be in the discussion every time we talk about MVPs and best players. LeBron and Kevin Durant, Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, and Kobe. It's always the perimeter guys we talk about. They go up against other perimeter guys. He goes up against trash almost every other night. I mean,
I don't disagree. Like I say, he
always
leaves you wanting more.
If he was a Bull, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. He's stuck in at part of his thing, and I'm not talking just simply about the failure of the Magic a couple years ago when they looked like they had something going. In general, it doesn't mean I don't want him, because I do. But and some guys get stuck in it forever in their life, and he's stuck in it right now permanently. That always leaves you wanting more.
We've got Hub at the top of the hour talking Bears and NFL with us. Your last chance for the season to get your phone calls into Hub with Boers and Bernstein on The Score.
The strongest starting lineup in town is right here. And thanks to you, we're still number one. Get your Chicago sports talk from the best. We are Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com. Celebrating 20 years as Chicago's original and number one sports talk station.
Visiting with Hub Arkush at the top of the hour. It's your last chance at him, kids, because he's, he might be doing shows here. I don't know what Hub's schedule is, but this is your last chance to actually, for a while, it would appear, to have a conversation with Hub. We invite your phone calls because we don't have anything for him, really. We do if we need to, but we'd prefer you do it. It's your day. We're having this, talking about this off the air.
Mm-hmm.
the greatest Laker of all time. And you know, that's a pretty tough crowd because some teams. Well, see, I look, I may be a tard, and you know, I have a business card that indicates that, but I think there's only one answer.
How can there only be one answer?
One right damn answer.
Magic.
Yes.
Okay. If I had
so, would you agree with
because
this?
What's the matter
with
you?
I'm going to paddle you.
I think you're going to invite a lot of people saying,
I'll
Jerry
say
West
or Kobe,
not Jerry West,
or Mikan,
or Kareem.
I mean, isn't Mikan in the discussion?
Or Wilt?
Not my discussion.
No, Wilt. No,
Wilt was dead.
Wilt. No, he wasn't dead. Wilt could still pass the hell out of it, but
led the league in assists that year, didn't he?
You know, Wilt. No, by the time he got there, he was effective, but he wasn't really.
And he had a whole new crop of things to do. But I think when you talk about, look, I understand the greatness of Jerry West. I understand it. I get it.
Shaq split his time between too many teams. You're talking about the greatest. I think the answer is probably Magic.
Shaq had what from '96 to 04 with the Lakers, and then 4 years with the Heat, and was it 4 years with the Magic? So he spent the bulk of his time in LA.
I mean, as much as Shaq was, and I understand what he did, but wasn't.
How about Kobe?
I would have him very high, obviously, but I would just say this: that I think there are certain transcendent figures in the history of sports. And I think when we saw Magic Johnson at 6'9.5" doing what he did at Michigan State, you go, okay, well that'll never work. This thing, I don't know if this thing is really going to translate. He'll probably it absolutely translated. And not only that, when he had to play center in an NBA Finals game, and he puts up 42, 15, and 7.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of think that he could have done any damn thing he wanted to do anytime he wanted to do, and he was the best passing guy, as good a passing point guard as there ever was, at 6'9.5".
So the question: who achieved the most as a Laker, or who's the best talent as a Laker?
I think he's a transcendent talent in the history of the sport, because you'd never seen anything quite like that. You'd seen guys that agile centers and agile forwards, and they're coming into that era, but not like this guy. I mean, not getting the ball up and down the court. And who's the heart and soul of Showtime? One of the most famous teams in the history of sports. Who's the heart and soul of Showtime?
It's one of those silly discussions.
Yeah,
though.
but it is. Isn't he really? Heart and soul of Showtime?
I think I went with my. Usually, your first instinct is right, and it would just ask things. But you're talking about greatness.
Oh, Jay and I were discussing it. Yeah. We discussed things. We discussed basketball.
Yeah, we can get Dan's numbers guy back on the line.
Adam and DeKalb, you're on the score.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I just want to say that I kind of agree with what Jason's saying about Dwight Howard sort of leaving you wanting more. And I've heard a lot of talk about possible trades with Orlando. Things that we could work out, maybe sending Taj or Noah or even including Luol Deng in that, or maybe trading bad contracts, like Ito for Boozer, and then a couple extra thrown in. And I think that I could see trading one or two pieces and maybe switching bad contracts, but I think that if you trade like three guys, which I've heard a lot of people, talking about and kind of hoping for, I think that giving up, like a whole three players like Gibson and Noah and Deng is just way too much. And I guess I just kind of want to know what you guys think the value of Dwight Howard is in terms of.
No, you're not giving up too much. That has been our point, and you can always refill. Nobody says you have to win the championship this year.
Yeah, I think when you have a chance to make a deal to pair Derrick Rose.
When is too much though? When you went, at what point in the deal is it too much? Because I think the Knicks are kind of feeling we did too much. And I trade for Carmelo Anthony any day of the week. But with what they gave up four players that you do need depth and you do need rotation players.
You need a coach too.
Oh, definitely.
I think they'll be better when they have a coach.
Definitely.
They shouldn't really assess what they've given up until they have a coach.
Well, when
is too much on this Bulls team?
Although he's played. Well, let me just answer. Let me get to something. Do you really, seriously, and I know he's part of it, but do you really feel bad about Gallinari? Even though he's leading the Nuggets? Is that really like you'd say to yourself, I gave up too much?
They gave up a lot.
See, I guess the answer is as long as...
I do it, but it's still giving up a lot. It didn't change it.
It hasn't worked yet. You're right about the coach thing, so continue. I'm sorry.
As long as you're not giving up Derek, I don't... within the parameters of what the deal has to be by salaries, I don't think... You can't just keep throwing guys in. There's a specific...
They're going to have to start adding guys if you...
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a specific structure to that deal that limits the definition of too much. So if Tom Thibodeau is here and Derrick Rose is here, we've seen that on the fly, they can put together a roster of guys that they know are going to play hard enough to be this good. And all of a sudden you're adding a 26-year-old number one center in the league? I don't think there is a too much based on the strict parameters of how deals are constructed.
I understand, but are you ready for Kyle Korver and Omer Sheik to be your primary weapons off the bench offensively?
For now, I can deal with that for now, but not next year.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's just going to keep going more and more, and then maybe you'll have Hito Turkoglu running around.
It's the problem you want to have.
Right. Let's figure out how to build around Derrick Rose and Dwight Howard. That's the old good problem to have, as opposed to the not knowing where to play Miguel Cabrera problem.
There's no small window here the Bulls are in with Derek at 22. I mean, you have
which one
time.
is it? You guys say he falls down. He's got 2-3 more years.
I think it is a relatively small championship window, which is why I think you
got
5
years though.
But I think you got to do it now when you have a chance.
Definitely,
Jason. We tracked.
Well, you know how I feel about John keeping up with these dudes that he likes and trying to build just a happy team.
Yeah,
throw some angry guys who kill people in there as well.
Jameson Irish Whiskey is the number one Irish whiskey in the world. In the U.S., it is the fastest growing spirit, with 2 out of every 3 cases of Irish whiskey sold carrying the Jameson name. Jameson, the official drink of St. Patrick's Day. Hub is going to join us in just a moment, so let's load up the phones. 312-644-6767. We're Boers and Bernstein, about to talk some Bears and NFL on the score.
Scoreboard update.
5 o'clock, and from the Chicago Wolves update studio, I'm Matt Rodewald. Been to a Wolves game yet? Well, the Wolves are at home 6 more times in February. Just visit ChicagoWolves.com. Bears are all done with the coaching search. They've hired everyone they need to at this point, so they say. Tim Holt is your new offensive line coach. Bears have made the announcement this afternoon, and Holt comes to Halas Hall from the Bucs, where he was the assistant offensive line coach for the last 3 seasons. Prior to that, lots of lower-level college experience that dates back to 1995, about 14 years before joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Florio reports that Jim Zorn was asked to interview for the Bears quarterback coaching position, but the Chiefs ended up saying no to the Bears' request, and Jeremy Bates got the job yesterday after passing on the offensive coordinator job about 2 years ago. Bulls in New Orleans tonight. The Hornets are not very good. They're 4-21, but still Derrick Rose is itching to play. He says he's going to play tonight, even though he's a game-time decision with back spasms. Joel Presbilla, he's still deciding between the Bulls, the Heat, and his sofa, and Houston will host the 2013 NBA All-Star Game. From first place in the Western Conference to starting the playoffs on the road, the Blackhawks have fallen all the way to the 6th position in the West. Jonathan Toews says it's got to stop.
We can't hide from these problems. We got to face them and deal with them, and do it as a team, not as separate individuals. And we do that. We got a lot of talent. We got a lot of ability in this room.
65 points. They're still just 7 points back of the Red Wings, and the nightmare road trip continues on Friday in San Jose. They tried to get a practice in today, but 4 guys had to sit out because of flu-like symptoms. By the way, the University of Michigan has given the okay to the NHL to use the Big House for next year's Winter Classic, set to feature the Maple Leafs and the Red Wings. College hoops tonight. Big Ten, Penn State travels to number 11 Michigan State, while number 22 Michigan is at Nebraska. Also, Notre Dame heads to West Virginia. Irish looking to make it 5 straight. Plenty of good top 25 games as well. Number 12 Georgetown's at number 2 Syracuse, 7th-ranked Kansas at 6th-ranked Baylor, and Duke and Carolina in Chapel Hill. And back to the NFL, the Jets are going to stick with Santonio Holmes. Roster bonus today gives this former Super Bowl MVP $15 million guaranteed through 2013. This scoreboard update is brought to you by stcharlestoyota.net. Qualified buyers get 0% APR financing on 9 new Toyota models, exceeding expectations at stcharlestoyota.net. And join the score on Friday at Jewel, located at 800 West North Avenue in Melrose Park from 5 until 7 p.m. And make tonight a DiGiorno night. Enter to win a Court of Dreams basketball activity on the Bulls home floor and 2 tickets to the Bulls game, both on March 14th. Prizes brought to you by DiGiorno, the official pizza of the Chicago Bulls. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. Your Menard 670 weather forecast. Tonight, clear skies, an overnight low of 21 degrees. Tomorrow, a few afternoon clouds with a high of 40. I'm Matt Rodewald, and you're listening to The Score, celebrating 20 years as the original and number 1 Chicago sports station. This is Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score and 670thescore.com, Chicago Sports Station.
This hour is brought to you by Subway Restaurants. Eat fresh at Subway.
Boers and Bernstein.
Just ask the librarian.
Chicago Sports Radio
I did.
670 The Score.
And at 5:06, we don't want to waste any of your time because we got our guy, the editor and publisher of Pro Football Weekly and the Score's NFL and Bears expert, Hub Arkush. How are you, Hub?
Good. How you guys doing?
Outstanding, my friend. All right.
I'm already sad that this is it.
You know what, Hub? We really need you year-round, you and Matt Bowen. So you two are going to have to work something out.
Guys, I can't speak for Matt, but I am available anytime. It has become a year-round sport. We're going to be working free agency hard in the draft and, of course, going to the Combine in a few weeks. So just give me a call anytime.
312-644-6767. We have an open line if you want to jump on with a question or a comment for the Score's Bears and NFL expert. We'll start in Joliet with Sean on the Score. Sean.
Hey, guys. How's it going? I echo Dan and Terry's sentiments. I've really enjoyed this segment the last few years. So
Thank you, Sean.
Real quick, over the years and during Lovey's tenure, we've noticed several coaching changes at several of the position coaches, several offensive coordinators he's gone through, defensive back coach, defensive line coach until Rod Marinelli got here, et cetera. But one spot, which arguably to me is the weakest of their positions, is wide receiver, and yet Darryl Drake seems to be as safe as a kitten. And I'm just kind of wondering, does he have compromising photos of Lovey, or what's his value across the league as a position coach? Because I don't see anybody under his tutelage getting considerably better, and I just wonder why a change hasn't been made, considering how short they've been.
Sean, it's an interesting question.
It is,
It's a tough call because the other side of that is how many wide receivers have they drafted, how many free agents have they brought in, how many undrafted free agents have they brought in who've gone on to be productive players elsewhere? And the answer is going to be zero.
None.
So, I obviously they believe that the coaching isn't the problem. And while we're all frustrated that the position isn't better, we have no evidence to suggest that the coaching is the problem. The three originals, I believe, I know Darryl Drake, Tim Spencer at running back, and Dave Taub at special teams, I think all started with Lovey in 2004. I think every other position has changed. I started to ask the question a couple of years ago about Darryl Drake because I wondered, but I can't see anybody who became a better player elsewhere who's been productive in the league. People like to point to Justin Gage, and Justin Gage became a workman-like journeyman-type receiver with Tennessee. He showed that type of ability with the Bears. It's just that his 4 years were up, and they let him go be an unrestricted free agent. Other than that, I can't find anybody. So
if you're Mark Bradley and Joaquin Iglesias, there's really...
Well, Bradley was a high second-round pick, who goes to Kansas City and has like one game and then instantly disappears again and is out of the league. So I don't think I have nothing to suggest that Darryl Drake is the problem.
Next is Mike in Bloomington on the Score. What's up, Mike?
Hey, fellas. Hub, can you make my early Christmas present come true? Is there any possibility that Peyton Manning will be throwing touchdowns to Larry Fitzgerald next year, or is that a complete pipe dream?
We could almost make it a belated Christmas present from last year to be closer, really. No, I think the Cardinals are one of the three front runners. It is either going to be the Arizona Cardinals, the Miami Dolphins, or the Washington Redskins. I know everybody would like to project the New York Jets into the conversation. I do expect them to kick the tires a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think it'll come down to bidding between those three teams, and the Cardinals made it very clear, off the record, that they're very, very serious about it.
It's still so amazing that this is definitely going to happen.
Well, I'd say it's 98%, Dan. I don't see anything turning it around.
We know it is. I know it is. It's just...
and that the health is okay. We've learned enough, Hub, to be sure that he's not going to kill himself.
Again, this is all... It has... I don't know.
I'm with you. I think it's going to happen, too. The only thing I have left... I know the bidding war has probably already begun in some way, shape, or form. The only thing that seems a little hazy is the health, but the other thing, there's no question.
Yeah, and the health part is what I was kind of waffling on there a little bit, because I think what's been reported, or what everybody should understand, is that structurally he is sound.
Doesn't mean he can throw.
Yeah, he is no more likely to go out on a football field and break his neck than any other player who plays the game. He is no more likely to get re-injured in that spot than any other player playing the game. However, what this injury does is it creates nerve damage, and the nerve can regenerate. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it regenerates partially, and he's lost strength in that arm. And so when he says the rehab is going great, I believe him that he is slowly gaining strength. Now, I talked to some people in Indianapolis last week who had seen the workouts, who had been there, and basically what they were saying is that if all he had to do was throw 5 to 25-yard passes, he'd be fine. But as soon as he tries to zip the ball on a rope 20, 30, 40 yards, and some of those 12 or 18-yard out patterns can be a 40-yard throw, that he's not there yet. And whether he's going to get there or not. Now, some of it maybe he's been afraid to really unleash it because he doesn't trust the injury. But for whatever reason, he's not there yet, and that's the part that you don't know how much further back he's going to get.
Here is Tony in Villa Park on the score. Tony.
Yeah. Hi, Hub.
Hey, Tom.
Just quickly, Angelo last year he actually traded up a little bit in the draft, and I'm wondering, is it possible these days to trade off a few late round choices and maybe one of next year's choices and maybe one or two guys off the end of the roster to try to move up, and we don't need any more 6th and 7th rounders. I'd like to see them get 5 guys in the first 4 rounds. Is that possible?
Well, they've already got 4 picks in the first 3, I believe. They've got an extra 3rd-round pick for Greg Olson.
Yep.
So actually you're there. You just said 5 guys in the first 4 rounds.
You just have it.
Yeah, they're going to get 5 guys in the first 4 rounds. If you want to pick up another one, rarely can you get more than a round up in value. In other words, if you want to pick up an extra 4 this year, you probably have to give them a 5 this year and a 4 next year, or maybe you even have to give them a 3 next year. So you're not going to get extra 2nd, 3rd round picks by trading later picks or bottom of the roster guys. Players have very little value in trades in the NFL. Usually it's either players for picks or straight picks for picks. You almost never see a player for player trade.
This is Justin in Plainfield with Hub on WSCR. Hey, Justin.
Hey, guys. Hub, question for you. Since Lovey's only guaranteed next season, is Emery's approach in the draft, being that this is probably the most important draft we've had in a while, is his approach from the defensive side to just draft the best player available, and whether he starts or not and builds for the future, that works out? But is Lovey seems so specific with his safeties and cornerbacks and all these defensive tackles that we draft? Does Emery just approach it from get the best guy available, and whether or not it's with Lovey's system or whoever coach it is in the future, let's just hope it works?
Well, first of all, Justin, Lovey's guaranteed to get paid for the next 2 years. Now I think what you're referring to is Phillips said when he hired the GM that Lovey was going to be the coach in 2012. But in fact, he's under contract through 13. He's going to get paid for 2 more years. So, I'd like to believe that one of the reasons Phil Emery got the job is he convinced the Bears that they were going to the real world where teams are successful in the draft, where you draft the best football player available. You don't draft the best athlete available. You don't draft the best player at your greatest area of need. You draft the best football player available every time you get a chance to make a pick. And I hope that's what he's going to do. I haven't really heard him speak specifically on that subject, so we're going to have to wait and see.
Before we take another call, I just want to make sure that you got the information today that I guess news that Terry broke. I put it at cbschicago.com. We were always asking the question, we talked about it yesterday, about why the passing coordinator idea disappeared. Mm-hmm. And why this sort of went to, well, we got to have a passing coordinator too. That was an important part of the announcement. And then it became just a regular quarterbacks coach, and the Bears released the news that, sure, he'll rely on his positional coaches. It was forced by Tice. That Tice said, you're making me look like an idiot.
Well, he's right.
Yeah, I know, but the fact is,
he's absolutely right.
But the fact is that the Bears said, you're right. We are making you look like an idiot. This is really a dumb thing to do. Yeah, and they corrected their mistake.
Well, good for them, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It was dumb from the beginning. They set themselves up to fail with the whole thing, and now, if the passing game struggles but the running game looks good, everybody's going to come back and say, why didn't you hire a passing coordinator? But in the bigger picture, I'm glad to hear that they said, hey, we screwed up. Let's fix this now.
Yeah, it got me to thinking yesterday. I wanted to check that too, because I thought the first time I heard it, Hub was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're making the guy seem like you give the guy a title, then you make him seem like a boob.
Yeah, it just, from the second we heard it, it was almost like saying, no, he's qualified to be the offensive coordinator, but nonetheless, we got to get somebody else to help him with the part of the game he doesn't understand. So, yeah, good for them. Whatever it is, if they got it right now, they did. Either the guy's in charge or he's not. Either he's calling the plays or he's not. And now you know who's accountable.
This is Jim in Deerfield. He's on the score.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Hub. If you were Phil Emery, what is your top priority you must do this off season?
Well, again, I believe that you must draft better. You know, I know you want to hear me say one position or get one player, but I prefer to think big picture about this organization or this team, regardless of, you know, who the coach is or who the quarterback is in a couple years. And if they're going to contend on a regular basis, you know, like the Patriots, like the Giants, like some of these other teams, they've got to draft better. And so I think they need to get 2 starters out of this draft. I'd like to see 2 guys start immediately. I think one of them should be the first rounder. I don't care where the other one comes from. I'd like to see him get at least 1 more guy who starts eventually and at least 3 more players who become significant contributors. That's a draft. That's how you're supposed to do this, and I think that's his most important task.
Well, that's a tall order, Hub Arkush.
Yeah, well, not for many teams, you know, and if you got the right guy here, you know, hopefully they can do that.
All right, more calls with Hub in just a moment. Keep it here. We're Boers and Bernstein. You're listening to The Score.
Brought to you by Rockenbach Chevrolet, the mega savings store off Belvedere Road in Grays Lake.
And this hour of Boers and Bernstein brought to you by Northwestern Basketball, Chicago's Big Ten team. The Cats host Iowa tomorrow night at 8. Visit nusports.com or call 888-GO-PURPLE for tickets, and you better do it now.
We're talking to Hub. You're talking to Hub. And this is it. Savor it. Enjoy it, because it's special. Tomorrow at this time, we'll be right in the middle of...
Who you crapping?
Already some terrific e-craps that have been sent in, but keep that in mind.
Hey, buddy.
There's really no replacement for Hub, so I'm glad that Hub has generously offered his time for us.
Gary in Peoria, you're on The Score.
Hey, Hub. Thanks for taking my call. Love your show. Would you say the average points this defense is kind of getting old, but if they could just maintain, like, giving up 17 points possibly or less, I think they'd be in pretty good shape next year. And second of all, if it does implode like it did this year and with Brian Urlacher's health, would he maybe consider retirement in the middle of the year possibly? Thanks.
Wow. Whoa. Ouch.
Yeah, you know, I don't know, Gary. I don't know why he would. I think he'd want to get paid for the whole year. So I doubt that, and I think Brian Urlacher probably hopes to play 3-4 more years, and he may be able to. You know, Ray Lewis has announced he's absolutely coming back this year. He'll be 37, and the thing that made Lewis and Urlacher the unique players they are is the kind of athletes they are. And so of the 4 guys on defense who are starting to show some age, ironically, I guess I worry about Urlacher the least because he still seems to be somewhat of a freak as an athlete. You know, as far as goals, every team in the NFL has a board in the locker room in which they set the goals for the season, for games, you know how they want to perform on each side of the football, and kind of the universal standard is 17 points a game. Going into a game, that's your goal. Don't give up more than 17 points a game. So if in fact, you know, the Bears are able to average 17 points a game for the season, then they figure to be a playoff team.
See, it's so weird, Hub, that next year's Bears are a completely different plan, different outlook, different criteria for what you're looking for than the Bears after next year. That was that earlier question about Phil Emery, and I keep getting excited about next year and saying, yeah, they could win the Super Bowl next year, and then I look at all the everything else, and I don't know what to think.
Well, I don't know what to think about after next year. You know, although you have to assume everything they're going to do is going to be built around Jay Cutler. I mean, he is amongst the younger or middle-aged players. He's the one potentially elite player that you have at the most important position. So, you know, in this league, the way things have gone, they could get better quick. You know, maybe the 30-somethings don't all go downhill at once. You know, maybe it's Briggs who slips first, or Tillman and then Peppers. You know, maybe it's Tillman and Peppers. Who knows? You know, but they still hang around and they play well enough on defense, which they've always done. So the other thing, you know, that I don't think people focus on is Mike Tice was a tight end. I mean, that's what he played. He's been an offensive line coach. He's been a head coach. I don't think there's any reason to assume that they're not going to have a good passing game under Mike Tice. Again, they planted that seed with this silly passing coordinator thing. I think he probably has a pretty good idea of what he wants to do, you know, throwing the football. And I'd be very surprised if they don't go get a better tight end, you know, and try and get better at wide receiver. And I suspect that Mike Tice is going to try and run pretty close to a pure West Coast offense.
That's what you said yesterday, by the way. You said, for the caller before, Hub said yesterday, a wide receiver or 2 and shore up the left tackle. If you're absolutely demanding something that has to be done, aside from having two players that contribute or whatever, that's what you would probably want most if you look at it next year and say, okay, we could win the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, I mean, if this defense plays to 80 or 90% of what it did last year, and last year was nothing special. They were 14th in the league in points allowed, which I think the Patriots have proved is really probably the only stat that matters. But that was good enough, and if they can hang around there, they've got to be able to put more points on the board. And if you assume that Matt Forte's there, either franchised or with the contract that he wants, how else do you round out this offense? You've got to get Cutler as go-to guy. You got to get him a big-time wide receiver, and then another one to keep pressure off the go-to guy. And I think you've got to have the tight end be a factor in your passing game, and he just hasn't been the last few years.
Nikki in Michigan City, you're on the score with Hub Arkush.
Hello.
Hey, Nikki.
I was just wondering what Herb thought about Indianapolis as a Super Bowl venue and whether there's a possibility that Indy could get a Super Bowl in the future.
I thought, and this was my 33rd straight Super Bowl, I thought it was one of the best I'd ever gone to as far as the job the city did, the facilities, the convenience, the way it was handled. Everything about it was great. I'd be very surprised if they get another one. And if those two statements seem inconsistent, they are, but here's the problem. Did you hear the announced attendance? 68,000. The announced attendance a year ago in Dallas, which was arguably the worst of the 33 Super Bowls I've gone to, 103,000. Okay, that's 35,000 tickets at an average price of about $900 a pop. We can all do the math. That's over $30 million that got left on the table to be in Indianapolis this week, and I don't think that's going to happen again. And it's a shame because they did a great job. It was an excellent Super Bowl.
I had no idea with all the talk about the incredible television ratings.
I didn't even think of it either.
I didn't think of it. And even so, the other thing I thought, too, was so much of the success and the good reviews by media and everybody else were based on unseasonably warm weather.
See, Dan, but even if the weather was terrible, if it was snowy and cold and whatever, that's what's so great about the setup there is all the media hotels were connected. You could get to the Giant. You were connected to the Giants hotel. You were less than a 50-minute walk from the Patriots hotel. You were connected to the stadium if you didn't want to go outside. And so bad weather wouldn't have ruined much of it. I mean, all of the entertainment events in downtown Indianapolis, it's a 5-minute walk. So how bad would the weather have to be that you weren't willing to make a 5-minute walk? So I think it could overcome the weather. I don't think they can overcome how small that stadium is.
And Dallas wasn't just the game. It was the inconvenience, as I recall, right, in terms of getting places and getting your job done.
That's the flip side of it, is that, yes, the weather was the worst part. The ice storm made it bad. But how many people have ever tried to get from Dallas to Fort Worth in a hurry? And you had one team in Dallas and one team in Fort Worth, and then the stadium out in the middle, almost in a triangle. There was nothing convenient about it. There was no central gathering place. There was no, hot spot where fans could go for great entertainment. Listen, I like North Texas. I got no problem with Dallas. I know that you can go there and have a good time, but the whole idea of the Super, that's why New Orleans is so unique, because whether you like New Orleans or not, everything is right there in one place, and it's easy to get to. Mm-hmm. And Indy mirrors that. Dallas was the opposite. Dallas was almost more like Los Angeles, which is another nice spot, but I don't care if we never go back there for the Super Bowl because everything is so spread out.
Well, Hub, thank you very much for your time
this
year. It's been another terrific season. I wish the Bears' performance was as solid as yours.
It is a ton of fun, guys. I look forward to 2012, and hopefully we will take them into the playoffs and beyond this.
And like I say, we'll use that phone number when we'll use it.
As there is Bears news, we are certainly not going to be shy about contacting you, as you know.
I'm sure we'll talk soon, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks. Either that or that guy from Baseball Perspective. We'll get him. Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Scoreboard update.
5:30 from the Chicago Wolves update studio. I'm Matt Rodewald. Well, Wolves Flex Packs are 10 undated tickets for the price of 7. Visit ChicagoWolves.com. The Bears coaching search is all done. Tim Holt is your new offensive line coach. The Bears made that announcement earlier this afternoon. Holt comes to Hallis Hall from Tampa, where he was the Bucs assistant offensive line coach for the last 3 seasons. And prior to that, lots of lower-level college experience that dates all the way back to 1995. The Bulls are in New Orleans tonight, continuing the road trip. Bulls swept the season series last year. They've won 6 straight against the Hornets, who are bad. Derrick Rose and his back spasms, not going to keep him out of this one. He says he's a game-time decision, but thinks he'll play tonight anyway. Bulls, Heat, or sit on the couch. Tough decision. Joel Prisbilla will eventually figure it out soon. Blackhawks continue to slide down the standings. 6 losses in a row now. It's the longest losing skid for the Hawks since the 2007-2008 season. They were on the ice in Denver this afternoon, trying to get a practice in before heading west to San Jose, taking on the Sharks on Friday night, but the flu bug kept 4 guys off the ice. Conference Shuffle, Memphis moves to the Big East in 2013 and makes 9 Conference USA schools picked up by the league in the last decade, and because of that, Conference USA is now looking at a merger possibility with the Mountain West, and that would create a 16-team football conference by 2013. College hoops tonight, Big Ten, Penn State, and number 11 Michigan State about to get started. Number 22 and Michigan and Nebraska a little bit later on. Also, Notre Dame heads to West Virginia. The Irish looking to make it 5 straight wins. And 4 games in-state tonight with NIU entertaining Miami of Ohio. Bradley hosts Indiana State. SIU battles Missouri State, and Illinois State takes on Drake. This scoreboard update is brought to you by Debt Stoppers. Call now at 312-447-8010. And join Jason Goff and Matt Bowen broadcasting from 12 to 4 on Sunday from the Toyota Sports Corner at the Auto Show. While you're there, register for your chance to win a dinner for 2 with football legends Steve McMichael and Keith Van Horn. Brought to you by Toyota.
Champagne room.
There you go. Your Menard 670 weather forecast. Clear skies tonight. Overnight low of 21. Few afternoon clouds. High of 40. I'm Matt Rodewald. You're listening to The Score, celebrating 20 years as the original.
I'm a biatch.
Number 1 Chicago sports station. There you go. It's the Chicago Sports Radio, 670 The Score, and
Knucklehead.
Score.com. Same to you. Chicago Sports Station.
Sally Jenkins. It's always nice to, on Boers and Bernstein, it's always nice to run those things by you, like, yeah, the Bears can be in the Super Bowl next year, and that's very possible. It's football, and
Sure.
Nobody ever knows what the hell's going to happen, but I would feel better about it if you just didn't have, like, those giant hurdles right in front of you in your own damn division. I would feel like, okay, sure, anything's possible.
Well, injuries.
But, man, even if you get a left tackle that actually can block somebody, you get a couple wide receivers, maybe it would all look different, but you got a problem.
Right.
You got a problem. It's fun, because I would like to, by the time we get to Bourbonnais this summer, I'd like to say, hey, let me tell you something. This is a Super Bowl, a team of building.
Hey, we got some good news yesterday regarding the 2012 Charity Poker Championship that benefits kids with cancer and leukemia through the one-step programs. Children's Oncology Services. This year's event presented by Robert W. Baird. I'd mentioned that Lynn Bramer was playing in the event. I think Matt Spiegel and some others from his game may be playing in the event. And Matt Bowen had expressed an interest in playing. Well, we found out a guy who's always done a lot for us, and he works on a competing station, but he's been involved, I think, since pretty much the very beginning. But Richard Roper, our old buddy and your friend, is going to play in this year's event as well. And he's pretty good. Most years he finishes in the top 30. I don't know if he's made the final table yet, but glad to know that he also is involved. And if you want to get involved, and damn it, you should. You heard all about the marathon efforts, but this is a little more accessible if you're a non-marathoner. I think the crowd that runs the marathons and the crowd that plays in our poker event is decidedly different, but here's your
probably
chance.
Not the same.
March 1st, 2012, the River East Arts Center. It's a Thursday right down here in Chicago, and we are competing for a $10,000 seat in the World Series of Poker main event in Las Vegas. This could be your best opportunity, essentially like a 1 in 300 chance. Texas Hold'em. It's single elimination, but with multiple buybacks. If you want to see the whole structure, you can just go to BoersandBernstein.com and click on the link. You can also register right through there, so get registered. It's for the money, for the opportunity you get for all of the eating and drinking and texting and sexting that we're going to be doing.
I didn't know that.
Top shelf bar. We've got terrific food, and it's, if you want to be a spectator, it's just a $75 ticket to eat and drink to your heart's content and just hang out at the party. But if you are a poker player or you know a poker player, your friend or family member who is 21 and wants a shot at the World Series of Poker, go to BoersandBernstein.com and get registered for the event. And every dollar that is so needed to run these ever-increasing expensive one-step programs that we do to help kids with cancer and leukemia just be happy and help them be kids and let them do things that other kids do. So you can win the World Series of Poker seat, or we've got $10,000 worth of other prizes, including Prime Bulls tickets, Bears tickets. We've got hotel stays. We've got gift cards for electronics. We've got 18-year-old boutique bottles of bourbon.
They're auctioning off a chance to cook for me.
No, I'm buying that already. I'm going to do that. I'll do that. I'll come to your house and do the whole deal for you.
Wow.
If you want to make
you're talking about cooking.
You want to make a donation to the One Step programs, I will come over, provide all the ingredients, and cook you the best meal you ever had in your life. I
grilled cheese sandwich.
Well, it's still good.
You know what?
I will do that.
I would love a grilled cheese sandwich.
Oh, a grilled cheese with bacon. You ever go? There's a little diner. I'm sure people know it. It's Western and Montrose.
That's a little out of my comfort zone.
Western and Montrose, 24-hour place called Jerry's Grill, and I was hungry the other night, and I went in there and I just started ordering things, and I didn't stop.
It's good to be white.
It's also good for a place that's that inexpensive. And I just kept ordering
I've always
things.
found it good to be white.
And after I had eaten a patty melt.
Except at basketball, that wasn't good.
I had a patty melt, I had fries with gravy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I also ordered the fried chicken.
That's too much.
I finished.
NFL running back, Terry.
Oh, that's right.
I finished with a grilled cheese with bacon. And that's really living. If you get a good grilled cheese with bacon, you don't need much more in your life, do you?
No, I would like to have one tonight.
Well,
have one. I'm glad that I don't know what Roper's doing. I have no idea what he's doing in the afternoons. I don't know what he's doing. But I'm going to tell you something. He writes more sports than we talk.
I know. It's so true.
Seriously, he writes more sports than we talk. I'll let everybody figure that out for themselves, but it's damn true. I know it to be so.
Yeah, he's going to be a very unhappy White Sox fan this year, too, judging by if you missed it before. We did get a scoop today that Baseball Prospectus did predict the White Sox to have 77.8 victories possibility.
More than you think they're going to win.
480 win percentage. And the Cubs at 74.5. There's a 460 win percentage projected by the PECOTA
So those
system.
who like to make that Cubs Sox bet feel like there's not much difference. Go for it.
Have fun with that. Milwaukee on the score. You okay, Mike?
Oh, gee. So, now I've had this cough, But anyway, I thought it was a great Super Bowl.
Ladies and gentlemen, a score classic. It does not get any better than
that. Happened yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, man, I hate when...
You didn't hear him?
I didn't. I missed it.
Oh, Jay. Because usually you listen. Oh man!
You know what's awesome is that the days I miss and I come back and I look in the tab, it's nothing like of substance. It's always something stupid.
Well, yeah, we don't have anything. There's no substance to this show.
It's never like an interview bite or something.
No, you new here?
It's always like some stupid thing that happened.
Right.
That's pretty good though.
That's good.
Is he okay? Like, did he go on with the rest of the call?
Yeah, he straightened up. Yeah, he was okay after a while.
And flew right? What do you mean he straightened up?
I don't know. You never know where he's
I love it because Terry was like, Mike, do you smoke? And he got offended by it.
No.
Like, I don't smoke.
Me?
I just drink a case a day.
But he did smoke, right?
Yeah, he stopped in 99. 1899.
It's kind of old movie, but not old. That Renee Zellweger, or whatever her name is.
It's kind of old, but not old.
Do you know what movie it was?
I don't think we ever figured it out.
Was it Jerry Maguire? What was he watching?
I don't know what he's talking
Jerry Donato.
Also starring Renee Zellweger.
Jay, I'm telling you, from start to finish, Hall of Fame.
Yesterday?
Yeah, that one
there.
That
man.
call. That call.
I gotta go back and listen now.
Listen to him.
I gotta go back and listen now.
You can podcast it.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
know.
great thing about modern technology.
Well, it's kind of tough for me because they haven't taken the podcasting to the iPad. Like, I can't get it on iTunes.
You don't need, by the way, there's no other part of yesterday's show you need in the
list. If I can, I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, you don't need anything. You don't need anything from yesterday other than that.
Really?
Yeah, no, there's nothing worth even thinking about.
We're Boers and Bernstein. We've got more to come, including, I believe, we get to say your favorite words in show business.
We do.
Closer to the top of
and
the
I
hour.
still say he's the professor. You can have your Brad Palmer.
I don't like stealing nicknames because that started the whole Shaq Dwight Howard thing.
No,
that was part of it. They didn't get along because Shaq thought that Dwight Howard appropriated. He usurped his position as Superman. When you already tattooed Superman on you and someone else, see, because Brad Palmer does have the professor tattooed on him.
That's right.
He's actually got the And One mixtape saying of it. It's like elongated and the professor.
Yeah, I
Duck,
don't.
Crusher.
I'm sorry.
Crusher, right?
Many people in our listening audience have no idea who it is when you're saying Brad Palmer anyway.
Well, then they're idiots. Because he
no,
was
they're not. When's the last time he was around?
I don't know.
Well, you're the idiot then.
You're the idiot.
He's around on a golf course somewhere. He was actually he was the first guy talking about yards per pass and rushing attempts. You hear that all the time now. That he was the first guy in Chicago before games to mention yards per pass and rushing attempts.
Doug was the first.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
No,
Yes,
he wasn't.
Doug was the first at everything.
No, Doug will be the last.
Doug was the first.
Doug also.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, Doug was. He
I
also
love
did,
Doug,
yes,
but no.
he
Doug
was.
will beat the bejesus out of you. Doug was
and
the
he
first.
also
different.
Doug also discovered Cuba.
He did.
And penicillin.
Yeah, and Venezuela.
And Yanis Cespedes.
Is it Janus or Ioannis?
I've heard both.
Because you're careful when they talk about Ioannis.
Oh man! See, I knew he was going to say
He could
it.
be called Penis Cespedes.
Ioannis penis.
Oh man!
Great mixtape, but not so good.
Is he going to be a Cub or a Marlin?
All of a sudden, Mike from Milwaukee sounds like a Rhodes Scholar.
Who's to say he's not?
Well, he might have been. He smoked his way right through it, but he doesn't smoke.
You have the score.
He's holding it in one arm, stroking it with his other hand.
Right now, you've got
Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Boys Bernstein getting ready to wrap it up in a few moments here. You got a big Bulls basketball game tonight.
No, Josie, don't lie to
Nelly.
people. Don't lie to people. And I'm
I was going to be a barn burner.
No, I'd be happy if they actually did burn down the barn, and then the game wouldn't have to be played.
It'll be CJ versus Grievous.
That's what I'm looking for. And this is the God's truth. This is the God's truth. I have no idea. 4 of the 5 New Orleans starters, I don't know who they are.
Again.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you come on.
You watched Maryland when Grievous was there, flailing and doing his...
Were you going to call me a penis? Were you going to...
His hot Latin temper out there in the ACC.
Oh, I remember him so very, very well.
This is the starting lineup for the Hornets.
Don't do it again.
And I
if
have
you do
to
that
watch
again, I'm going to do what you hate again.
I have no choice. I have to watch the game. Because
Right.
that's...
No, make the kid watch it and have him report back to you.
He can do that. If I leave the room and I say remember everything that happens, he'll remember.
All right, don't read
every
this.
scoring play. I'm going to do it. I apologize in advance for doing this, and I know this may be against FCC rules, but I'm going to read tonight's projected Hornets starting lineup. And you'll hear Will Ferrell give you these same names a little bit later on. Oh boy. Grievous Vasquez.
Do it fast if you're going to do it.
Marco Bellinelli, Emeka Okafor, Gustavo Ione, and Trevor Ariza.
Oh, the land of the free.
Idiot.
So what is this? This is a 15-point win? 12-point win?
Oh, this has got to be like a 100-point win.
Nah, you know everybody got a run in them.
No, they don't.
I don't think
there's
team
no run in
does.
Gustavo
Everybody's
Ione.
got a run in them.
Yeah,
you know the Bulls will be playing the 2 worst teams back-to-back games.
I don't think there's a run.
The Hornets and the Bobcats, 2 worst records in the league.
I'm looking up Gustavo Ione.
You think, by the way...
You've never heard of him, Mr. Basketball,
No,
had
I
you?
haven't.
Okay.
Do you think, by the way, that Michael has had any second thoughts about purchasing that?
Sure.
Probably so.
I have to.
That's why he
think
went
that-
so hard in the lockout.
Yeah, how can you not?
I mean, I think you kind of have to look at this and say, you know, you hesitated to do it. You always wanted somebody else's money. You wanted to be part, but you really didn't want to spend. Why did you now?
Gustavo Alfonso Ione Aguirre
Yeah, give me his OPS.
is a Mexican professional basketball center with the New Orleans Hornets. He attended Universidad Popular Autónoma del Estado de Puebla.
With
in Mexico.
Constantine Popa.
No, Constantine Popa was the Miami center who looked exactly like
Blackbeard.
Carlos Santana
Yeah.
of the band Santana. No, he didn't
Banco
look
Popular.
like Bunko Popa. Do you remember when you had those reads
I
years
did.
ago and you would always do it like you always say Bunko Popular?
Yes,
Banco is a fun word to say.
It is fun.
El Banco.
It's more fun than the Hornets. I'll tell you that.
Well, actually, if Will Ferrell wanted to have fun, he'd just take the microphone and I'd just say El Banco. You're right. It is fun. It's not El Barco is fun too.
It makes you
And
feel
it's a
like
good
you can
restaurant.
speak Spanish fluently just by that one word.
That's, you know what? I've had several things in my life that were awfully disappointing, but
the Spanish-speaking skills.
You took 3 years of Spanish. You don't remember a word of it.
I don't. Well, I know some words of it, but no, not enough. And now I'm going to have to learn French, and it just, I can't.
Just take the book with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. We got the phone.
Order and ask for room service.
Yeah, we got the phone app, and I'm just going to say, "Hey, buddy."
They speak English.
I know. Well, not my English.
They do appreciate it when you do try to speak French, though.
Yeah.
They appreciate when I order with money I'm paying with, though.
That's right. I'm going to give you big Banco Popular.
And even, here's the thing, Matt Bowen, his mom is a Spanish teacher, and he took like 4 years of it, and he was in the Spanish National Honor Society, and he can't speak it.
He can't?
He says he can't. He insists he can't.
Well, you get into a Iowa Hawkeye locker room and then an NFL locker room, you kind of lose the need for that.
Yeah.
Really?
Or the ability. Who
so
knows?
I shouldn't feel that bad is what you're saying.
Yeah, I want to say...
No, you should feel bad.
I believe that...
I do.
I think Senorita Bowen or Senora Bowen actually taught Chris Collins Spanish. Our former coworker. I believe that's true.
How about that?
Nobody
still working on English.
But see, the most fun, if you take enough Spanish, what's happened to me is all that sticks with me are actual lines from the language lab tapes. You know, where you would go into the language lab and you put the headphones on and you have to answer questions in ¿Crees que vive un Dios en el fondo del lago? Los sacerdotes dicen que sí. Now that does mean nothing now.
Only thing that sticks with me is the alphabet and the numbers and being able to curse in Spanish.
I know the numbers up to about 10, but see, it's disappointing.
What is disappointing?
That I don't know these things better. I mean, I don't. Like kids like 15
you can do
years
Spanish
old
crosswords.
5 damn languages.
Yeah, my kids are speaking Chinese now.
Yeah,
right.
A lot of the kids are learning Mandarin. And
they're learning Mandarin. So at the same time, they're learning American Sign Language, Mandarin, and Hebrew. And now they have a million ways to communicate where my wife and I have absolutely no idea what to talk about.
I'm too skittish
really
for
hard.
Yiddish.
Hebrew is hard. Gotta learn
Very
it,
hard.
Gotta learn it.
Good people, the Hebrews.
Some Hebrews, yeah. Comes tax time, you gotta find yourself one.
You know what? I think I could pick that up faster than I did Spanish.
It's hard.
No?
It's hard.
I'm too... All right.
Es dos palabras favorito.
I'm a boob. My 2 favorite words in show business. Lon Holmes has joined us. Hello, Lawrence.
Hello, Uncle Terry. Hello, Dan.
Hey! How you doing, my friend?
I agree with you guys about the Spanish. I can do, like, if you dropped me in a Spanish-speaking country, I could probably get by. Barely.
I think
with
I could get shocked,
very
probably.
patient people, I could get by.
I'd be okay. I couldn't do everything exactly right with like the subjunctive
Yes.
mood and all that, but I could be fine.
But I love it because when I go to Dunkin' Donuts in Hyde Park, everyone there speaks Spanish.
Half my neighborhood is Spanish.
And it's awesome because I'm now greeted in Spanish when I walk in the door, and I can hold a very limited conversation in Spanish, which is great. And they always, I'll ask, I'll do the como se dice and ask them what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And I enjoy. Are we that friendly as English speakers? When people who don't speak English ask us stuff, because I found that people who speak Spanish, when you're making an effort, whether it's in America or in Spanish speaking countries, they will hold your hand, literally hold your hand, and help you out. Do we do that?
No.
Are we jackasses?
Do you remember the Monty Python bit where they had the guys with the wrong English phrase books? So they what they were saying wasn't what they thought they were saying, and there were all these guys walking around, "Pardon me, will you please fundle my buttocks?" What?
Well, now have me ask that, I'll do that.
Right, because for Terry, that's not the wrong book, that's the right book.
It's just, it actually is frustrating because it should be something I was better at, and I was a bad student. But for the love of God, come on.
Especially considering where you grew up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with
learn
me.
a little tourist French and you'll be fine. You don't have to learn the whole language. Just learn the stuff you're going to need. The one thing to remember is that the C on the sink, when you look at the 2 faucets, C is hot, not cold.
Okay, that's good to know.
Well, he figured that out pretty quick. But you actually just told Terry to learn touristy French.
Tourist French, just tourist French.
He's been telling me this for a week now.
There's classes. My aunt teaches it. You can do like a couple of classes, and she gives you a couple worksheets, and you learn just enough to really enjoy your trip, to read a menu, that kind of thing.
Can you say something in French, like one sentence that Terry could repeat right now?
A sentence like what?
I have
been
in that movie.
Coucher avec moi ce soir.
Yes. No, say that one over and over again. See where it gets you.
You can say, je m'appelle Terry.
What?
Exactly.
There are two things on my bucket list that I'd like to accomplish, and I kind of keep going in and out of it.
Your bucket list is years ahead, though.
Well,
you don't need a bucket. You're a young man. You're a guy with many, many years ahead of you annoying people.
Well, I appreciate
come on.
that. I do, but there are two things I really wish. I guess maybe they put them on the list of regrets, that I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker and that I don't play the piano well. Those are two skills I would like to acquire.
All you need to play on the piano is Nana, Hey, Hey, Goodbye.
That's it.
And then you're good.
Then you're the hit of the party.
Just walk into the party and play that.
That's it.
And then be like, that's it, I'm done.
That's it. Drop the mic. That's all Vladimir Horwitz ever learned. He just had everybody conned.
Everybody dance now.
No, that I could do. I'm thinking about doing that.
I want to play the piano like Victor Borge plays the piano.
Wow.
That's what I want
right
to do.
now, you're way better than he is at the piano.
Probably even not now.
No.
Even with him in a box.
If there's a recital against Victor Borge right now, you win.
I love when those
Victor's
infomercials,
off his game.
When they come back up, when PBS is hitting you up for money, and they give you a little bit of that, and then you see like the infomercials of them, and what a great time that must have been for him to just be like, yes, I'm a classically trained pianist.
Making fun of it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Playing music upside down and all sorts of weird stuff.
Well, the music thing, I never had a chance at. Nothing. There's nothing there that would have happened. I always felt like
you've never had a chance at it. What do you mean?
No, I wouldn't. No, I didn't ever play any instrument. What are you, crazy? What do you think? What?
You never picked up a guitar, Terry?
No,
I mean, really?
We had to play instruments.
It's a rule. Yeah, you got to play a sport. You got to play an instrument.
No,
I would have figured, considering the times that you grew up in, where the music was really starting to get going, that maybe you said, I'm going to pick up a guitar.
I'm going to play this damn sitar.
No, I never really did that because first of all, we couldn't have afforded a guitar. And second of all, I didn't ever think of it.
How about a drum?
A banjo?
That I thought of.
How about the washboard?
It's over. It's all over.
The didgeridoo.
That's right.
I can sit on your porch naked and
He
play
played the mouth organ.
Well,
better known as the harmonica.
That's right. Well, in some circles. In other circles, it's known by another
Several
name.
offers to play the pink piccolo, but I don't think that was a real.
Son, it's time to learn the wash tub bass.
What? No, all right. Well, maybe I'll reconsider. I'll put that on my bucket list. I need a better bucket list.
We got to get that sponsored. Terry learns a musical instrument. And then you just see a different...
Yeah, we can get it sponsored by Super Blue Stuff.
I bet the Uptown School of Music would come in here and teach Terry how to play an instrument.
Terry played wind chimes.
Yeah, and Terry would bitch halfway through the first lesson and they wouldn't come back.
Then he developed tendinitis in his cording hand.
Lawrence, those are these turncoat bastards.
I know you're not talking.
What is that all about?
I hurt myself. You couldn't wait to make fun of me for weeks.
Oh, my God. My flank is getting attacked.
All right, thanks to our guest today.
The first time.
This one's on me. This is one you can put in the Bernstein bin.
We have. Don't worry.
You actually give me a guest name for the first time in months.
I said book Colin Wires, and you did.
Yeah.
Next time I say that, don't listen to me.
Great information.
Oh, he was bad?
The information, the
great
content was great.
Information.
He was bad? You guys can say it.
He's bad. He just didn't sound good on the air, but his content was
it's
great.
More than it just
and he
didn't
gave
sound
us a
good.
scoop. But I think we had a phone issue, and then we had I don't know.
Lawrence, we were praying that Mike Bibby would be on the line.
Oh, no.
Well, that's we all have that's one for me.
Oh, just one for you.
No, that is one for you. That's the only one.
Please tell me that you said keep in touch.
Leon.
Keep in touch, Leon.
Well, let me tell you. First of all, those cousins of yours count against you forever.
That's on Maddie.
That is not true. That is not true. I would have never asked your cousins
who
if you
hired
not
them?
mentioned it to me.
Who hired them?
I'm sorry.
They got paid for that?
Mitch asked me. He had a bunch of stuff, and I gave a bunch of names. That was not my call.
Yeah, that was not on me.
That's not on Maddie. We've discussed
Only
this before.
Guillen's on you too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the Ozzy roast is on you too.
Oh no, you saw it when I left.
I know. I didn't go.
Oof, I had enough of that.
I saw Ozzy, Oni, and Ozzy Jr.
That's because
Yes,
he's Ozzy Woo Woo.
He had a great time at the DePaul game, even though DePaul didn't.
Hey, relax there.
I was not happy.
Relax, teacher. Settle down, professor.
We thank our crack production staff.
Anger.
Mr. Matamaticola.
If she comes onto you sexually, you got to rebuff those because you don't want to be that guy who's moving up to the top because you're juicing or you're having sex with the you're having sex with the lady.
Ladies and gentlemen, they call him Herb from Milwaukee. No, they don't.
Great.
Was he good last night?
Always excellent. Lots of good advice.
Herb is a unique guy. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of,
He gives a lot of love and marriage advice for a single dude, though.
He does.
And breaking news that he told us that we will explore, he went on some sort of date. And he talked. Yes, he did. He went on some sort of coffee date, but then got real secretive about it.
Wow.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of wisdom and a lot of advice for a guy who's
Guys, what?
Single.
But I know who he went out with.
B-Mac.
And I talked to her.
B-Mac Bialbo.
Really?
Really? You know,
Do
there's
I know
so
her?
many
All right,
places
move it
out
along.
there.
Let's go. Finish
Nah, well, you guys probably know her.
Finish the show. Lawrence has got a show to do. Come on.
Thumb ring, Skechers, you know.
Como usted, Pinocchio? One of the finest hardest young men ever, Mr. Jason George Goff.
Being gay, it's a good lifestyle. I would be in shape right now if I was gay.
Better clothes on, too.
Oh, man. Dressed right. Everything would be right. Of course, these are sweeping generalizations I'm making right now. As I always do.
See, I think if you're going to call somebody Pinocchio, you're probably not going to use usted.
I know.
I don't think you're going to use the formal form.
I know, but I figured it was. I figured it was necessary there. Anyway, he is the most dangerous producer. We thank you for listening, calling, emailing, texting. We will do it all over again tomorrow. Lawrence coming your way. Terrific as always. Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow afternoon.
First pitch goes out at 7:35, and the temperature will be 76 degrees. I'm so sorry.
We picked up 9 inches of snow. Bill Ricca had 7, the biggest amount that I could find, almost as big as me, about 9 inches.
Perfect. This Valentine's Day size really does matter.
First pitch goes out at 7:35, and the temperature will be 76 degrees. I'm so sorry.
So if you want to score
don't apologize.
Big points with
don't
your...
say you're sorry. Just say, oh, get a little of that one.
Say,
Here's a little something for your morning.
It wasn't me.
So you want to
point
score...
to the guy next to you. Blame a dog.
Oh, man. Want to score big points with your Valentine? Go big with a new big hunk of love bear from Vermont Teddy Bear. When I say big, I mean big. This teddy bear is more than 4.5 feet tall. He's big, he's soft, he's adorable. This is the Valentine's Day gift that no girl can resist. The big hunk of love bear is available for a limited time for only $99. And he's guaranteed to be delivered in time for Valentine's Day. You can spend roughly the same amount of money on flowers or chocolates, but they will be gone in days. But the big hunk of love bear will last forever. It comes with a famous Vermont Teddy Bear lifetime guarantee. So if you want the big reaction and the big reward, get her the big hunk of love bear from Vermont Teddy Bear for Valentine's Day. It's only $99, so go big and go home happy. Vermont Teddy Bear also has hundreds of other classic teddy bears for Valentine's Day. Overnight and Valentine's Day delivery are guaranteed. Visit VermontTeddyBear.com or call 1-800-829-BEAR and tell them the score sent you. And Boers Bernstein loves you.